unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are
Hello and welcome to India Sense. I'm Gaurish Dwivedi. This is a show that brings all the news, the views and perspectives for the global Indian. As always, we start first with the headlines. Operation Sindhu, a huge success as Government of India vows to bring back 1,000 students who are coming back, those who are stranded in the Iran-Israel conflict. 3 flights to bring back their students. Prime Minister Modi's 3-nation, 5-day tour yielded big gains to Bharat, from showcasing its middle power diplomacy to becoming a voice of the global south. We tell you Bharat's top 10 big gains. The world remains on the edge as Donald Trump gives a 2-week window to diplomacy. But with German Chancellor suggesting Israel is doing the world's dirty business, will America get tactical and military support from its European allies? We decode. Asim Munir's lunch meeting with Donald Trump may have huge impact on Pakistan's internal stability. Islamabad's Balochistan problem may worsen, adding to Asim Munir's woes. A week after the horrific crash of the Air India flight from Ahmedabad to London, black boxes are being investigated. The probe will offer clues to India and the world about how the world's safest aircraft crashed. Viewers, as Prime Minister Modi wrapped up his high-stakes 5-day, 3-nation tour, which included Cyprus, Croatia and Canada for the G7 summit, India finds itself in a much stronger geopolitical position. And what has the nation really gained from this high-stakes diplomacy and the power play that was at full display? Let's break that down. First up, we got those 10 big gains that Bharat had in this big diplomatic win for India. First up, the strategic validation that this puts for India. Let's put that out. The first gain for India, which is India's invite, cemented its place in terms of being such a big and important stakeholder outside the G7. That's the first big gain for India out of this 5-day blitzkrieg. Second, an important point, which is the middle power diplomacy that is on full display. India is now the perfect bridge that can act between polarized blocs. On one end, you have Russia, you have China, and then you have the other Western powers. Between that is the middle power diplomacy that belongs to India, which is what was on full display at these important events. Third, voice of the global south, the third big win for India. India is positioned to champion issues, whether it's food security, whether it's equitable vaccine access, whether it's debt relief, climate finance, all of which is essentially issues of the global south. And it was India who's championing that. India as the voice of the global south, champion of the global south, being put there as a big validation for India. Another big win for Bharat. Let's move ahead. The fourth big win for India, technology and AI collaboration. The AI summit that took place in France this year, you had Prime Minister Modi as a co-chair, because it is widely acknowledged that the India model when it comes to artificial intelligence, one that is not based on capitalism, one that is not based on closed source codes, but one that are available to all, open source codes. All that allows India to provide that perfect gateway to be the technology and AI collaborator, and add to it the UPI, big UPI revolution that India is being able to do so, not just in Paris, but in all global capitals. You see that. Another big win for India. Move ahead. Let's talk about now the climate finance leverage, something that India is best positioned to offer, simply because as one of the largest consumers of non-renewable energy, when India speaks about the transition, it matters. And that's why when the world wants to take a roadmap, a strategic direction towards what should be the view when it comes to clean technology, clean energy, India matters as it speaks as one of the largest importers of non-renewable energy. Economic diplomacy, another big win that we saw this week for Bharat. The fast-tracking of bilateral trade negotiations, whether it is EU, whether it's several others, pitching India as the perfect alternative to China-based, China-centric supply chains is another something, big win as far as India is concerned. The other 2-3 important points were the energy security transition that India is best positioned to offer, advocate for stable energy supplies while seeking investments in green hydrogen, in critical minerals. There's been a lot of scramble when it comes to critical minerals, but all driven by capitalist instinct, something that you've seen with America putting that through. But India's position has been completely different, something that allows for the world to be able to find some sort of a roadmap. The last 2 wins for India, countering China through alignment, not alliance. Extremely important, because without formally aligning with Western blocs, India can signal convergence or Indo-Pacific security, tech standards, supply chain diversifications, all while keeping its strategic autonomy intact. And lastly, the geopolitical risk management that helps India hedge the risks amidst global turbulence, especially regional fallout with pariah Pakistan and China. Those were some of the big wins. And lastly, allowing, of course, once again becoming that perfect bridge when it comes to the Indian diaspora. Far and flung places, you also have the Indian diaspora being connected, being part of the India story. I'm going to now play out the soundbite of Prime Minister Modi on this 5-day blitzkrieg, and then we move ahead.
पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप में चल रहे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को लेकर हम दोनों ने चिंता व्यक्त की है। इनका नकारात्मक प्रभाव केवल उस क्षेत्र तक सीमित नहीं है। हम दोनों मानते हैं कि यह युद्ध का युग नहीं है। संवाद से समाधान और स्थिरता की बहाली, ये मानवता की पुकार है।
Shifting focus, viewers, to the first wide-angle story on the show. Germany just said the quiet part out loud, which is the German Chancellor not mincing his words when he said what many leaders whisper behind closed doors, which is that Israel's not just defending itself, it's defending us. It's actually doing West's dirty work. This is what the German Chancellor said when he met several world leaders at the G7 summit. Now, the question on everyone's mind, will Europe and the US finally step out of the shadows, stand by Israel, not just with words, but with action? Let's break this down. Imagine a fire breaks out next door, someone rushes in, puts it out, but not before they get burned. What the German Chancellor said means just that Israel is doing the firefighting and getting scorched in the process. Iran's missiles aren't just landing in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. The German top leader wants that it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere in any other capital, which is why he said that this is the West's dirty business. Are we then looking at this regional conflict spiraling into a much bigger global security crisis? So what should the West do? Should it go beyond just statements and sanctions? Should Europe and the US now actively support Israel? Or is this what German Chancellor's statement should be read as? That a possible support could be on the anvil. Is the West all in on the Israel-Iran conflict? With Russia and China coming out in support of Iran and Western allies backing Israel, does a larger escalation seem probable now? Well, in geopolitics, viewers, doing the dirty work often means making the hard calls no one else wants to touch. But inaction has a price too. And the clock right now is pretty much ticking. And as we speak, while at one end you have the EU allies now seeming to have much greater clarity in terms of how they view the Middle East conflict, they are waiting a word from America, the president, who will not decide right now, but after a fortnight. And this report tells you the twists and turns Trump's Middle East strategy has taken in this last fortnight.
14 days. That's how long President Trump has paused a decision that could ignite a war with Iran. After signaling the US might strike Iran's underground nuclear site, Trump suddenly slammed the brakes, citing a chance at diplomacy. Some critics even call it taco. Trump always chickens out.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that.
But Trump's history says otherwise. He sets deadlines before and does nothing later. Yet this isn't about tweets or trade wars. This is about war plans. Before the war broke out, Trump asked Israel not to act. But then after Israel's strike, Trump called them excellent. Trump then warned Khamenei that he knows the exact location of the Iranian supreme leader, and then doubled down on the warning of an unconditional surrender, only to say he may or may not do anything about Iran. As things stand, 14 days is too long a time to predict in the complex and volatile Middle East.
Well, viewers, Trump may be waiting for 14 days, the war is not. And Priyanka Deojain tells you all about the cluster bombs banned by 100 countries and used by Iran in the latest escalation.
Israel has alleged that Iran has fired a cluster bomb missile. You can see that in the sky. Now, this is the first reported use of the cluster bomb in the Israel-Iran war. Israel says that the missile was actually aimed at civilian areas across a big distance. According to reports, the missile was fired over central Israel. This is a heavily populated area of civilians. The missile explodes at 7 kilometers in altitude. 20 bomblets have actually been scattered across an 8-kilometer radius over central Israel. These are smaller bombs after the outer shell has been detonated. Now, Iran and Israel are not part of the cluster bomb ban. Over 100 countries across the world are a part of this cluster bomb ban.
All right, Allison Fedrika, who's an analysis director at the Geopolitical Futures, joins us as the top voice this week on the broadcast. Allison, good to have you on the show. Let me start by asking you the one statement that the German Chancellor said, that this is Israel doing the West's dirty job right now. Is this indicative of the fact that there is complete unity amongst America and EU allies in terms of how they view this fight and how they are likely to join ahead going forward?
So I think you're right. It is a very candid statement that you don't normally see in leadership speaking out publicly. I think it is a statement that reflects a shared interest in a non-nuclear Iran. I don't think that it says anything further in terms of unity for military action taken by all parties in Europe or the US. They historically do not necessarily go hand in hand, and the impetus needed for each country to react is very different. But they do have that shared interest of not seeing a nuclear Iran, and they all have the shared benefit of the Israeli strikes taking out a lot of the nuclear sites that are located within Iran.
Mm-hmm. How long do you see before a clearer direction is taken? Trump may have said 14 days, but it looks unlikely that a decision could be held till 14 days?
As you guys already said, a lot can happen in 14 days. And so I think rather than thinking about conflict in terms of timelines, because those are very unpredictable, and often don't really allow for the back and forth that's going to happen, is to think more of red lines, more of what actions are going to compel the other side to take greater action. So any moves by Iran that target U.S. military targets or kill U.S. personnel, civilian or military, would push the U.S. closer to taking action. Any moves by the U.S. to try to take out that Fordo nuclear site that remains in Iran may also provoke Iran to, say, target Iraqi oil sites or other places in the region that would be problematic for the West in terms of oil markets. So there's a lot of room for each side to continue acting and to continue escalating in the conflict. The question is, what is going to push them further? And right now, each party has been fairly careful about trying to keep this conflict between Israel and Iran for the moment, because nobody else wants to see this escalation spread beyond that.
But it doesn't look like either side is backing down, or nobody's exercising restraint, nobody's even advising caution right now.
So that is very true. Again, the U.S. involvement would be a game changer. If Iran is able to mobilize any of its proxy groups, which have been significantly weakened. The other factor that we need to look at, too, is just the domestic politics in both of these countries. There's a distinct possibility that internal problems in both of these countries could actually be the force that draws back military escalation in terms of popular support working against the government and providing a force. So the Iranian leadership has been divided prior to this conflict, and there is a real risk that as the conflict continues, it continues to weaken and lose power to the point that they have no choice but to negotiate or capitulate because they are not strong enough internally to continue fighting. The Israeli government is now rallying around the flag, but again, after the October 7th attacks last year, had huge internal fighting and problems, and we are now seeing that the public sentiment in Israel, while they supported the initial strikes, are starting to pull back because they don't want to see a protracted conflict where Israel itself is again the target. And that loss of popular support could also impact the Israelis' ability to continue their campaign as well.
Allison, finally, what shot does diplomacy have right now, given the fact that today is when some of those talks are taking place regarding Iranian nuclear program?
I think diplomacy has a possibility of pausing the conflict for a short period of time right now. Ultimately, the issues at hand have been long-standing. The Iran nuclear program is nothing new. Conflict between Iran and Israel is nothing new. And so if we see any success by diplomacy, it's going to be for a pause in the actual conflict right now. I don't think diplomacy is going to be able to resolve the conflict at this point in time. And you're going to have to see either a major military movement or major political shifts in these countries.
All right, Allison Fedrika, thanks so much for joining us live from Washington, D.C. on the story that the world is watching for. In fact, on that note, I'm going to slip into a short break, come back on the other side with more stories. Stay with us.
तू ही तो है जिसकी सच्चाई वाली क्लैरिटी की वजह से मैं आज यहाँ हूँ।
गोल्ड प्लस सिल्वॉक्सी मिरर्स, ऐसी क्लैरिटी कि आपको सिर्फ सच नजर आए, चाहे कितने भी साल बीत जाएं।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
As soon as possible evacuate kiya jaye.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where
the other wide-angle story on the show, viewers. There are no free lunches in geopolitics. Certainly not for Pakistan's army chief, Asim Munir, who may have thought he scored a strategic meal ticket with US President Donald Trump. But behind the diplomatic optics is a very simple calculation. America needs access to Pakistan's military bases as tensions with Iran simmer in the Middle East. While Islamabad might dangle a Nobel narrative for domestic consumption, Washington is eyeing strategic utility alone. But what's being served on this table will impact Asim Munir's own backyard, and that is Balochistan, stretching across nearly 40% of the country's landmass. Balochistan is rich in resources, but poor in rights. Its people alienated and impoverished, with 70% living below the poverty line. And now Baloch separatist groups have fought the Pakistani state for decades. But if Pakistan enters the Iran-US-Israel triangle, Balochistan may turn into an open wound. A conflict next door will not only destabilize the border, it may empower the separatists with dangerous regional alliances. Balochi separatists, remember, is not a monolith group. There are multiple ethnicities, multiple languages, and some even have patronage in Tehran. And those fault lines will come to the fore, impacting Pakistan's internal stability even more. Add to it the growing pro-Iran sentiment amongst the Pakistani public. With the current government's deep unpopularity, any perceived alignment with the US and Israel against Iran could possibly be the last straw for this government. Pakistan may be celebrating that it has managed to get inside Trump's strategic calculus, but the ramifications will be significant, militarily, economically, as well as socially. Remember, whether it's the Iraqi Kurds or the Balochis in Pakistan, all rebellions till now have been crushed brutally, sometimes with the help of neighbors coming together. But all those scenarios don't exist anymore, which is why Iran-Pakistan coming together to crush the Balochi separatist movement may not be a reality for Asim Munir anymore. A towering dream just hit a fiery wall. Elon Musk's Starship, SpaceX's bold bet on taking humans to Mars, was ripped apart in a dramatic explosion during a critical test in Texas. So has the Mars dream exploded too? Here's what really happened and what it could mean for humanity's future in space.
it was supposed to be another confident stride towards the stars. Instead, on June 18th, Ship 36 was reduced to scorched metal. The static fire test, a routine but high-stakes trial at SpaceX's Starbase facility, ended in flames. An explosion that tore through the super-heavy booster and echoed across the Texas coast. Thankfully, no injuries were reported, but the mission shaken, and the Mars dream temporarily scorched, but not dead. This marks the third major setback in as many months. A test failure in the Caribbean, a loss over the Atlantic, now devastation in Texas. Each failure dents public confidence, but not necessarily Musk's momentum. Because in the SpaceX playbook, failure isn't fatal. It's part of the process. The vision remains staggering. A fully reusable rocket system, a possible uncrewed Mars mission by 2026. Humanoid robots laying the groundwork for human colonists. That roadmap hasn't been erased, but it's been redrawn. The FAA is now investigating. Starbase is temporarily offline, and regulators are watching closely. SpaceX calls it an anomaly. Critics say it's recklessness. Supporters call it a learning curve. And Musk, he's been there before.
First world view on the show. It looks like the gloves are off in MAGA land. The latest flashpoint, Tucker Carlson, MAGA's loudest isolationist, the most controversial media personality, a one-time Trump champion who has run his course with the administration. Carlson ambushing Senator Ted Cruz on Iran is the latest reminder of the deep cracks that exist in America's right. Cruz's hawkish push to back Israel's strikes may have been the trigger, but it exposed the many layers of the MAGA movement. Even Trump jumped in, torpedoing Carlson. The movement that brought Trump to a landslide victory might be tearing. And the Hawks versus isolationists, the firebrands versus realists. And well, viewers, it's just starting. The world's fuse is burning fast and Europe's racing to stop the explosion. In Geneva, the UK, France and Germany, once called the E3, are back at the table, hoping diplomacy can douse the flames ignited by Israel's surprise attack. With President Trump hitting pause, possible US attack, the clock is ticking. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy says there's a 2-week window before diplomacy turns to dust. But Iran isn't biting, its foreign minister blasting Western nations, saying there's no negotiations while bombs fly. As missiles fly, hospitals burn and death tolls climb, one thing is clear, this isn't a war of weapons, it's a war of wills. The E3's gamble that words can still stop the war. And if they can't wait, what comes next, no one knows. All right, viewers, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Sense. And as we wrap things up, we leave you with the most viral moments of this year's G7.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, We are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Hello and welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up on the show this evening, including the Rappa controversy in Andhra Pradesh. But first, the headlines we're tracking this hour. Prime Minister Modi makes a major infrastructure push in Odisha, says he spoke to US President Trump on the phone during G7 and declined the White House invite because he wanted to be with his people. A housing scam controversy hits the Congress in Karnataka after an alleged audio clip of a Congress MLA complaining about money being taken for housing goes viral. BJP hits out at the top Congress leadership. Well, over 100 Indian students are set to return from Iran in 3 flights, for which Iran has made an exception. Well, first up this evening, focus on the powerful political and business Maran family in Chennai. Sun TV issued a categorical statement refuting reports of a legal dispute between the two Maran brothers, DMK Central Chennai MP Dayanidhi Maran and chairman of the Sun TV network, Kalanidhi Maran. Sun Network statement came in the wake of reports of a legal notice from Dayanidhi Maran to his brother Kalanidhi and 7 others. The legal notice reportedly demanded restoration of the company's shareholding structure to its pre-September 2003 status, when it was a closely held family firm in which the Maran family and the family of the late Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi owned shares. Sun TV in its statement said that the alleged matter dates back to 22 years when the company was a closely held private limited company, and that, and I'm quoting this, the statements allegedly made in the articles are incorrect, misleading, speculating, defamatory, and not supported by facts or law. It added that it does not have any bearing on the business of the company or its day-to-day functioning, and being the family matter of the promoter are purely personal in nature. Remember, the Marans are close relatives of Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, closely intertwined with the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam. Their father, Murasoli Maran, was the nephew of late Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi. Joining me now are Vishwanath Nair of NDTV Profit, who's been tracking the business fallout, and Sam Daniel from Chennai as well. Vishwanath, first to you, what's the sense you're picking up from the business community? You've covered several family disputes. What's the buzz in Mumbai?
Well, Veera, the conversation since last evening has been quite interesting, actually, in the business community, because what they're trying to understand is the timing of the entire thing. The fact that these shared transfers allegedly happened in 2003, that is what Dayanidhi Maran has alleged in his legal notice. He said that they were illegally transferred to Kalanidhi Maran, and he ended up owning 60% in Sun TV. So if it is now a 22-year-old technically case, why is it now that Dayanidhi Maran is putting out this legal notice to his brother? The other aspect of all of this is the impact on Sun TV. So what we are seeing right now was some amount of impact on the Sun TV stock. It fell to about 4% during the day, fell by about 4% during the day, and then it closed closer to 2% lower than the last open. So there was some impact. It wasn't material enough, but if there is an overhang that lasts for long about the ownership of the company and the status of the family, then that becomes a real concern for a listed company like Sun TV Network, because a lot of retail investors are also part of this network now with their shareholding.
Right, important overview that you're giving there, Vishwanath. Thanks very much for that. Sam Daniel, From the political side, one has observed the power of the family for many, many years. There was a fallout in 2007 when Sun TV moved out of Anna Arivalayam, the DMK's headquarters. It was building up since the demise of Murasoli Maran. What's the buzz you're picking up in Chennai? Has there been any on-record comment from Dayanidhi Maran or those close to him, or even from the DMK? What's the sense you're picking up? Because there are close family ties to the DMK's first family. In fact, this is part of the DMK's first family, as well as other political leaders there in Tamil Nadu.
Virirago, both the brothers or their close associates are completely tight-lipped. No word yet. Even their lawyers are not speaking. So there's no clarity yet whether the senior brother has received the notice. Has it been sent? No clarity on that. But the DMK clearly, consciously stays away from what they call as a purely family issue. None of the spokespersons are talking on record. But off record, they say it's again like any other family dispute and the party will have nothing to do with that. Although, on record, Dayalu Ammal, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's mother, is a shareholder, and her name has been mentioned in that notice reportedly sent by Dayanidhi Maran. But this certainly brings back memories of the family feud during the days of Karunanidhi as Chief Minister and as a leader, when there was a family feud between the Karunanidhi family and the Maran brothers. On two counts. One, the Karunanidhi family was not happy with the way the shares were divided among the family members, among the shareholders in the family. And reports at that time suggested the Maran brothers paid them 100 crore rupees. Not many were happy about that at that point in time. And there was also that report in a Tamil newspaper owned by the Maran brothers, in which they had a survey published, which Karunanidhi himself said tried to divide a wedge between his two sons, M.K. Alagiri and M.K. Stalin, projecting M.K. Alagiri in a very bad light, and that again had was responsible for the feud at that point in time. As a result, Sun TV was moved out of the DMK headquarters, and that gave birth to a new channel, Kalinga TV, owned by the Karunanidhi family. Of course, later they patched up, and Karunanidhi himself was quite relieved at that point in time, and that led to everything honky-dory. But in terms of the relationship between the two siblings, the two brothers, many say it was quite strained for quite some time, particularly over a feeling by the younger brother, Dayanidhi Maran, that he has been given a raw deal. What kind of an impact will it have on the party? That's something we'll have to wait and watch. But the party clearly distances itself at the moment, at least.
Right, the party insulating itself. Perhaps other top leaders, including Stalin, we believe are unlikely to get involved in what's seen as a Maran family dispute. But remember, Sam, the two brothers were extremely close to each other, stay next to each other at boat club for many years. They've stuck through together. So one will have to wait and see how this plays out, whether there will be a rapprochement within to keep a lid on this issue. Of course, no public on-record comments from either side. Thanks very much, Sam Daniel, as well as Vishwanath Nair for that. Now to the Rappa controversy in Andhra Pradesh. One of the punch dialogues in Allu Arjun starrer Pushpa 2 is now starring in Andhra's political drama. Rappa is what Pushpa says, threatening to behead all villains one by one in the climax of Pushpa 2. And a poster with that dialogue at a Jagan Mohan Reddy public function claiming Jagan will go after TDP when he comes to power led to the TDP criticizing Jagan of threatening violence. It turned out that the party worker holding the poster was reportedly a former TDP man who shifted over to the YSRCP, and Jagan Mohan Reddy delivered the Rappa dialogue at a press conference, making a viral impact and hitting back at the TDP. Listen in to this exchange before we head into the Rappa face-off this evening on the Southern View.
జాతరలో పొట్టేళ్ల తలకాయలు కోసినట్టు రప్ప నరికేస్తాం. అది ఒక పోస్టరా? పుష్ప సినిమా డైలాగులు పెట్టినా కూడా తప్పేనా? అసలు డెమోక్రసీలో ఉన్నామా డెమోక్రసీలో లేమా స్వామి మనం? ఇది నాకు అర్థం కాదన్నా. టీడీపీని రప్పా కోసేస్తానని కూడా అంటున్నాడని కూడా సంతోషపడదాం. నిజంగానే బాధ ఉంటుందేమో కదా వాళ్ళకు కూడా. ఆయన ఆక్రోశం చూపిస్తూ ఏమన్నాడు, ఏ జాతరలో, గంగమ్మ జాతరలో పొట్టేళ్ళు తలలు నరికినట్టు రపా అని నరుకుతానని చెప్పి ఆయన అంటానంటే దాని అర్థం ఏంది మరి?
డైవర్ట్ చేయాలి పబ్లిక్ అటెన్షన్. దట్ ఈస్ దేర్ ఆర్ట్ ఆర్ దేర్ ఇంటెన్షన్స్. అందుకే క్రిమినల్స్ ఎప్పుడు కూడా క్రిమినల్ బ్రెయిన్సే పనిచేస్తూనే ఉంటాయి. వాళ్ళకు నరికేస్తాం, చంపేస్తాం, రఫాడతాం, రఫా నరికేస్తాం, లేదంటే గంగ జాతరలో బలి ఇచ్చేస్తాం.
Why is Andhra politics going rappa over the rappa comment? Joining me this evening, Professor Jyotsna Tirunagari of the TDP, Karthik Yellapragada of the YSRCP, and NDTV's very own Uma Sudhir. Jyotsna Tirunagari, first to you. Why are you all worried about going rappa? Give us a context to this.
Well, it's being the nature of the people who are actually encouraging such kind of remarks. See, I'll tell you one thing. In one of the events that Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy has attended, some people have put up a poster which is objectionable, which actually incites violence. Police thought that should be taken into consideration, and there should be some sort of an action taken against them. Immediately, this man puts a press meet and says, "What's wrong in saying that? Manchidega means it's good only, no." So what's wrong in saying that is this statement? This is the man who has been the Chief Minister of the state for 5 years, 2019 to 2024, and he is heading a political party called YSRCP, in which an MLC of his, literally kills a man and door delivers the body, in which one of his MPs does, objectionable gestures against women. In that party, one of his close aide, his own brother, in fact, is accused in murdering his own uncle. So this is the history of that party, Rahul. And see, it's not about me or anybody else talking about it. It's like, how can you accept such kind of things in the society? You're actually putting up a poster
Karthik,
saying that
this
I'll
reflects
literally kill
violent
you.
mindset in Andhra politics, says Jyotsna Tirunagari.
Hey, hi, thanks for having me in the show. So, if violence and betrayal has a face, that is Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, is what we feel in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So I'll actually, put some facts, what's happening in the state for last 12 months. There are about 2,466 cases registered never ever in the history, just in 1 year against YSRCP workers. 766 attacks on the YSRCP leaders, social media activists 720. And in the same journalist fraternity as you do, there are about 63 cases just in the last 12 months, and 11 attacks on journalists, 390 were murdered who are said to be the YSRCP leaders, and there are about 73 cases just for social organization, people representing public office, the leaders of the organizations, etc. So what's happening in the state? This Andhra Pradesh is culturally, the movie capital of India. And again, there is one person who's holding a placard who happens to be a TDP person, and we still feel that he's been deployed there. And I know Jagan Mohan Reddy did not say by himself. The journalists were asking, that was the statement given, and he's telling that, there's nothing to incite violence in here. What's happening in the state? They're about,
Quickly respond, Jyotsna, before I go to Uma, to put a perspective on this. Quickly respond to what Karthik is raising.
See, let's assume if what Karthik ji says is correct, then why did Jagan Mohan Reddy has a problem if it's a TDP worker and he's been arrested and action been taken against him? Why does they have a problem on it? We are talking about incitement of violence. I'm sorry, Mr. Karthik, 1 second, sir, 1 second. The point is, in the press conference hosted by Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy, he very clearly said what's wrong in such kind of statements. I think, sir, he should take back those words, should apologize. That's one thing. It's very clear. I think, he doesn't even apologize for, literally demeaning women. He doesn't even apologize, but at least here, for inciting violence, I think he should apologize.
I'll have to jump in here. Just a quick point. There are about dozen plus press meets None of the data is getting challenged, and now this is all diverted using cinema dialogues. No one talks about fiscals. No one talks about deficits. There is dozens and dozens of data out there.
Sir, you can always come to the assembly and
none of that is getting.
Give us a context to why this issue has suddenly snowballed so strongly. Does it largely reflect the deeper realities which we've been discussing of bitter animosity in Andhra politics, the kind we had used to see between DMK and AIDMK perhaps in Tamil Nadu many years ago?
Strong influence of film certainly on politics in Andhra Pradesh, and very often we have seen the film world being reflected in many senses in political life, and dialogues being borrowed from there is also not unusual. But in this case, of course, there is an endorsement of violence which perhaps certainly needs condemnation. But what I must point out is that both these political parties, very strong regional parties, have been very sharp against each other on social media and in any other exchange, and they don't leave any opportunity at all to hit under the belt either. And actually they have a history of uncivilized kind of a language being used against each other, and this perhaps is no exception either. And in this particular case as well, whether he belonged to the Telugu Desam, whether he belongs to the YSRCP, that also will continue to be debated. What is planted and what is real, all that also will continue to be debated on social media or elsewhere. But yes, the level of politics going down is something that both the parties and the state certainly needs to worry about. But before we wrap up on this, Veera, I must say that I am on RK Beach, where a beautiful beach of Visakhapatnam, where tomorrow in the morning we are going to have the Prime Minister, participate in the International Yoga Day, along with 3 lakh to 5 lakh people across RK Beach to Bogapuram, about 26 kilometer stretch, and that's going to be something that the world is going to be watching, because there are going to be Guinness records, world records that are created here.
Right, Guinness record and world records. You're on the lovely beaches of Visakhapatnam. But coming back to our political panel, Karthik, very quickly, is it time for politicians not to endorse comments which propagate violence in some way?
Yes, it is every politician's responsibility not to endorse violence. There's no question about it. You ask Mr. Lokesh, why is he holding that Red Book constitution in the state of Andhra Pradesh? Is the great Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is given enough importance and the Constitution of India is given importance? Ask them what is that bloody Red Book he's holding in his hands and constantly referring. Is this enough? Is this enough? What's happening? Is this a Red Book constitution, or do we have Constitution of India written by great Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the state of Andhra Pradesh? We're all bewildered. People are getting confused just because in the 1 year of betrayal, we have made that whole thing a huge success. As I keep questioning, they do not challenge the data. They do not challenge what Jagan Mohan Reddy has told in terms of fiscals, economics, etc. They always actually downplay all of that. There's no even one objective counter that is given so far.
Jyotsna, the point he's making is that you are taking a sensational issue, just picking up, trying to subvert attention from serious issues and lapses. Your final word.
I think that's their cup of tea, and that's their, I think, foray, because they have been doing it for the past, I think 6 years, 5 years of their rule, and the last 1 year also. Again, one thing I would literally like to say is, Jagan Mohan Reddy is such kind of a person. He always tries to, divert the attention of people from very important things. Whenever, the other day also, whenever Prime Minister Modi tries to come to the state, they create some of the other nonsense. And even this case, I'll tell you one thing, sir, very small thing. The particular, deceased person that they tried to go, he was, he attempted suicide almost an year back. He died almost a year back. He went now. I don't know what the reason is. And he is actually, this is their sort of a attention diversion that they do all the time. Again, if I have to answer Mr. Karthik's questions, sir, all the questions that have been posed have been answered by the concerned ministers. If Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy has further questions, he is welcome to attend the assembly. Welcome to come to the assembly. No, Mr. Karthik, please kindly listen. He is welcome to come to the assembly and ask questions, sir.
Okay, I think both of you have flagged questions. Both of you have flagged serious issues. Uma is waiting for Yoga Day. I think it's time to go rappa on the show and move beyond this conversation. Thanks very much to all three of you for joining me here on the Southern View this evening. Now to the big question this evening. And this is a existential question for a lot of us. Is your password safe? It's described as one of the largest data breaches in history. Cybersecurity researchers have confirmed the leak of 16 billion login credentials, including passwords. The information leak, according to the Forbes magazine, can open the door to quote-unquote pretty much any online service imaginable, from Apple, Facebook and Google to GitHub, Telegram and various government services. As per the outlet, the researchers have uncovered 30 data sets, with each of them containing up to 3.5 billion records. So do we need to worry about how safe our passwords are? What is it that we need to know to keep our accounts safe? Joining me this evening, Nathan House, leading cybersecurity expert, CEO of Station X. Thanks very much, Nathan, for joining us here. What's the scale of the breach and how worried should I be about my password?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant breach. We should all be worried about our passwords because passwords are rubbish. So we really need to get rid of passwords completely and replace them with a different technology. Yeah, we should be worried, but we should be doing the same thing that we've always recommended that you should do with your passwords to make you safe. What you should understand about this is Apple's not been hacked, Google's not been hacked, GitHub's not been hacked. What's happened is individuals have been hacked and their usernames and passwords have been put together. So we don't need to worry about the third parties that have been hacked. So it's just the standard recommended advice that you need to do. You need to make sure that you have strong passwords, 12 characters plus. You need to ideally not be using the same password on multiple sites. And one of the reasons why, and it's what they're going to do with these, is they're going to do something called credential stuffing, which means they're going to get the usernames and the passwords, and they're going to try all of the common sites that they want to try and get access to. So if you've reused your password, they may be able to get into those other sites as well. That's why you don't want to be reusing your passwords. And unfortunately, we've got to have these complicated passwords, which are really a pain, which is why I was saying passwords they're rubbish, really. So you're going to have to use a password manager. You've got to get yourself a password manager. That'll help you generate a strong password. There are free ones that are out there. You've got things like Bitwarden, 1Password, Dashlane, NordPass. You've got to get yourself one of those. And for these sites, they have two-factor authentication, and this is very, very important. You've got to have your password and then something else. And that something else is what won't be in one of those lists. So even if they do have your password, you have that second factor, then it means you're going to be okay. So you want to be using things like Authy, Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and enable that on those accounts. And that'll get you some way to being okay, even if they get compromised in future.
Right, but as you say that, it's one entirely different aspect to remember multiple passwords. The amount of passwords that one has and one needs to remember on a daily basis obviously is an enormous brain strength exercise in one stage. But why is this particular breach so significant? Why is so much concern about this breach? Is it just because it's been reported? Or is it for somebody like you, this is the reality, this is more the rule than the exception?
Well, I mean, we do say another day, another breach, but with this, it's the sheer numbers. So we haven't seen numbers like this before. So that's what makes this different. But we do see a lot happening all the time like this. But because this is newsworthy because of the sheer scale of it, probably this was already happening without us knowing about it anyway. We should all be concerned, and that is why everyone's always saying that you need to have these complex passwords. But just to reiterate, you don't need to remember your passwords. You shouldn't be remembering your passwords. You shouldn't even know your own passwords. They should be stored in a password manager. So then you don't have to remember them. Now, a password manager is also a potential risk as well, and a potential area of compromise. It's just less risky than having bad passwords and sharing passwords, and get that two-factor authentication in there as well. And then you'll be much safer against these sorts of attacks.
Right. I guess like we say it in India, when you can't trust your passwords, just trust in God and hope that it'll be safe. That's perhaps the only way you can keep yourself relaxed. But thanks very much for those important tips there, Nathan. Thanks very much for taking time out and speaking to us. Now to the British Royal Navy F-35B stealth fighter, which remains stranded at the Thiruvananthapuram International Airport for the 6th consecutive day, reportedly due to a technical snag that forced an emergency landing. There was even fake news that the stranded fighter was up for sale on OLX, as hard as it is to believe. But this is a far serious matter. While Indian authorities, including Air India, have offered hangar space to protect the advanced aircraft, sources indicate that the Royal Navy has so far declined the offer, with protected tech concerns potentially delaying a decision on moving the highly sensitive jet indoors. Well, that's all we have time for on the Southern View this evening. News and updates continue right here on NDTV. You can catch Southern View on our YouTube channel and subscribe to get alerts. Thanks very much for joining us.
What is the status, if you can share with us, of India's hypersonic missile?
The hypersonic glide missile is in a much more advanced state. We have done one development trial. In the next 2 to 3 years, we'll complete all the development trials and then it should get inducted.
That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out there.
Gold Plus Clear Glass. Par ho ya near, sab kuch dikhe clear.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is religion of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
हमें as soon as possible evacuate किया जाए.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every
Hello everybody, you're watching NDTV. Days after the Air India crash near Ahmedabad, it's now been revealed that one of the plane's black boxes was damaged, and authorities will take a call soon on the best way to retrieve data that's crucial to this investigation. Now, many Air India flights have since then been grounded for various reasons. This is after the crash, and there's a lot of caution in the approach now, with specific emphasis and checks on maintenance, also checks on emergency equipment in aircrafts. The government is now tightening safety rules, especially around tall buildings near airports. But serious questions are also being raised about regulatory lapses and delayed action. The question that remains, of course, is why did it take a deadly crash like this for authorities to wake up to basic aviation safety failures? Former Aviation Minister and NCP MP Praful Patel joins us now. Thank you, Mr. Patel, for your time on NDTV. You've been the Aviation Minister in the past, and you've been on that hot seat looking at these issues from very close quarters. It's been over a week since the crash happened. How do you look at the pace of investigation that is on and all the action that has been taken since then?
Well, as you rightly said, 10 days into the crash, we all grieved our colleagues who have lost their precious lives, and now just pray that even those who are unwell, those who are injured on the ground, get well soon. But I think the pace of investigation has been very satisfactory, because within the span of 24 hours, we had the NTSB team from the US, the Boeing team from the US, as well as our own Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, visiting the spot immediately almost and taking charge of the entire protocol which is required to investigate such a crash. And well, I think there will be an investigation completed in 3 months, as has been told. Sometimes these things take longer because all possible scenarios have to be, investigated, because there is always, something hypothetical, and that should be ruled out to the maximum extent possible. And I'm sure, this will be done. Not to say that the NTSB or Boeing alone or the GE team alone would be solving the puzzle. Our AAIB is also equally competent and has all the equipment to deal with such scenarios and come out with a proper report after the investigation is over.
Right. Mr. Patel, how long do you think investigations like this last? You've also seen investigations like this during your career. Now they're talking about damage to the black box, and officials here are saying that they could actually take a call on whether there's any need to have the black box examined at an international lab. What kind of changes has our aviation sector seen in the last 10 years, specifically when it comes to investigating accidents like we have seen last week?
Now, let me tell you that till 2008, we did not have the Accident Investigation Bureau. We had just the DGCA or some experts, trying to decipher if at all there was an accident. But since 2008, as per the ICAO protocol, India also has established its AAIB, and which is, I'm sure, functioning very satisfactorily. It's been many years since I've left, but I know for sure that all the protocols, even the equipment, testing equipment is in place. Well, there could be a serious damage to the black box, which I am not aware. But having said that, black box itself, which is orange in color actually, is designed to withstand high temperatures, high impact, everything, all the possible scenarios. It's usually made out of titanium or the stainless steel, which I don't know the exact configuration, how this has been designed on the 787. But I can only say one thing, that our own capability is there, but probably to rule out any, safety margin in case that the black box is damaged, maybe the US has some more advanced facilities, or Boeing has probably more facilities. And I'm sure it doesn't really matter whether it's being opened in the US or it's being decoded in India. At the end of the day, what we really want to know is what went wrong.
Right. Mr. Patel, also this has been a very tough week for Air India. First this crash happened, and then we saw multiple flights also being grounded. There are these basic questions, right from the quality of seats, broken seats, to very basic things such as passenger safety. Air India itself is facing the questions over multiple leveled turbulence is what I would say, because in terms of ownership, there are also questions of performance, accountability. How should Air India move forward in this case? What should Air India ideally what should Air India ideally do to ensure that its reputation does not really face a very big setback?
Well, any such situation, obviously, all kinds of, different kinds of criticism do come in, and understandably so. But at the same time, it also is a learning curve, just in case they have missed out on some protocols, which I don't really think so. Air India, irrespective of the ownership today or in the past, has always been, completely safety-driven, protocol-driven. They follow every single process which has been prescribed either by the manufacturer or by the DGCA. And there is no real reason. Actually, now I've been seeing in the last few days, every day there is some incident reported about this flight being cancelled, or that flight has some, technical issue. Well, if on a normal day, we would have probably not even noticed it, nor would it have been reported. But just because one major crash has happened, unfortunately, everything then gets amplified. But I would like to say that definitely India does follow very good safety protocols, DGCA, and I'm sure Air India itself, I mean, whatever I remember from the past, Air India has also had very unfortunate incidents, tragic incidents, accidents, and they have been able to, learn from them, overcome those kind of issues. And I'm sure even in the current context, unfortunately though, Air India will be able to ride out of this current crisis, a crisis of confidence, I would say, because I would know that I've got calls from so many people, asking me, is it safe to fly on Air India? Are Air India's, processes, safety protocols in place, maintenance is good or not? And I can tell you, and I have no hesitation in saying this, that if I were to fly a 787 Dreamliner today, I would be the first person to say, fine, I'm on. There's no real issue. I wouldn't even worry for a second. It's what has happened. Of course, only time will tell whether it's, some kind of a failure of a machine or man or whatever. But these are all hypothetical things, should not really be, talking too much about it until we actually have the full report. And I can tell you that Air India itself has got very, very, very good technical people over the years. The legacy has been very strong in Air India.
Right. Mr. Patel, you're also talking about crisis of confidence. This is also the time when the passengers' confidence is at the lowest. People are in fact checking news updates, the kind of aircraft, etc. before flying. How can one really boost that? Because there are more flyers than the country has ever seen, and that is also very crucial for India's growth story. How are you looking at? How should the government look at boosting passenger confidence when it comes to the aviation sector?
No, I think you're right that there is a confidence level which has been shaken badly, but that can be easily restored. Also, I feel that there needs to be better communication, both by Air India and by all the airlines of the country put together, even by the DGCA. And I can also sense that, this is a time when any vacancies in DGCA especially, or even by the airlines in terms of their engineering or safety department, should be filled up immediately. And just filling up on vacancy by headcount doesn't really, be important alone. You see, in aviation parlance, either it's 100% safe or zero. There's nothing like 99.9%. And therefore, bringing in all the people who are important in terms of regulating the entire sector, those vacancies by experienced people should be filled up immediately. I also want to just, on a side note, since we're talking of safety, in the last 6 weeks alone, we've had 5 helicopter crashes, all in the pilgrimage Char Dham area. And that also, brings to the fore that we need to put very strong, controls and checks and balances over flying conditions. Because, the operators also take chances. The pilots also sometimes are confident or overconfident. They think that, we can navigate through the, the mountains or the clouds and we know our way. And 6 or 5 accidents in 6 weeks is a lot of number. And there's another aspect that, if there is no maintenance real facility, a small hangar or something should be put up, and wherever these pilgrimage helicopter operations are, because if there is a problem, they need to be placed to technically, solve the problem, to make it fly worthy again. And sometimes, I'm not blaming anybody, but there could be shortcuts which need to be avoided. And even that also shakes up the confidence. After all, anything falling off the sky does, rattle people.
That's a very important insight, Mr. Patel. Also, when we're talking about air safety, how do you also think about bringing those long-term reforms that people keep talking about, be it vacancies that you just talked about, pilot rosters, because pilot exhaustion is something that people are talking about now, more players in the aviation sector, because even before the crash, there's been so much that was talked about, the enormous prices of flying. I know that this might not be the right time to talk about this, but, especially pilot rosters, or the fact that we don't have that many options. The passenger today, the one that's flying, does not really have that kind of options. How do you look at those kind of reforms, sir?
Aviation is a very challenging sector. It may sound very, glamorous and very easy to, get into, but it is a very, very, I would say, a demanding sector, where especially when it comes to safety, the amount of protocols, the trainings, and other expenses which go into setting up an airline are not easy. Just to start an airline sounds easy, but not to run it and maintain it for a longer period. And therefore, I think at every level, I'm starting from not only setting up the airline, but in terms of more investment in trainings, more investment in maintenance, more investment even, I would say, in engineering. Because we need, very high-class engineers to work all the time on aircraft. We also need to have very strict, regulatory things like DGCA. I don't think we really need more legislation because it's already there. And if at all there's any requirement to improve on legislation, the International Civil Aviation Organization does, have regular meetings with member countries. And in case there is some, legislative requirement, I think India at the moment complies with every possible legislative compliance as laid down by ICAO. Also, the fact that we are audited also regularly by the US FAA, and we comply to the highest standards. So I only feel that maybe staffing could be an issue which should be addressed immediately. And staffing not by just headcount, but by quality headcount. Also, the fact that pilot trainings and even whatever, the fatigue issues or other things which are there should be a more robust dialogue between all stakeholders and understand if at all there are any issues, and those should be resolved. But to say that, just have more players, it's not just about quantity of players, it's about quality of players. And I think the current two big aviation players in India, as well as the other ones, which are, the next in terms of size. They all have good protocols. And I would say that by and large, I mean, see, an accident is a very sad thing, and therefore every type of, as I said, criticism is laid bare. But I'm sure there's something to learn from this and to improve from that. And India's track record, well, it's been very, I would not say great, but it's not been in any way less than probably the most advanced countries like the United States or any other country in Europe, where we do have a safety record which is quite okay, quite good. And we also have very, very good overall safety standards and monitoring. But my last word to people would be, please do not be scared of flying. And it's still the safest mode of public transportation. Even in India or anywhere in the world, you sit on a plane, your chances of having something going wrong are really very, 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 very rare. You really are one of the real unlucky ones if you really encounter some major problem. Otherwise, it is really the safest and probably the best managed public transportation anywhere in the world.
Praful Patel there, India's ex-aviation minister, sounding optimistic about India's aviation sector, saying that India's aviation sector is probably amongst the most compliant sectors in the country. He says that there's no need to fear when you fly, but of course there is always room for a lot of reforms. Thank you, Mr. Patel, for your time. Also moving on to the other story that is also our focus today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Siwan in poll-bound Bihar today, where he launched a fierce attack on RJD leader Lalu Prasad Yadav, accusing him of dishonoring Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Prime Minister Modi has also reframed social justice as BJP strength tied to welfare and inclusion. Now, this is with regard to the video of RJD founder Lalu Prasad Yadav, where a portrait of B.R. Ambedkar was seen near Mr. Yadav's feet, something that led to a lot of controversy in the state. Also, a notice from the SC Commission to Lalu Prasad Yadav. Before I get in my guest, let's listen into what the Prime Minister said today.
बाबा साहब आंबेडकर भी इस प्रकार की राजनीति के बिल्कुल खिलाफ थे। इसलिए लोग कदम कदम पर बाबा साहब का अपमान करते हैं। अभी पूरे देश ने देखा है कि आरजेडी वालों ने बाबा साहब की तस्वीर के साथ क्या व्यवहार किया। मैं देख रहा था बिहार में पोस्टर लगे हैं कि बाबा साहब के अपमान पर माफी मांगो, लेकिन मैं जानता हूं ये लोग कभी माफी नहीं मांगेंगे, क्योंकि इन लोगों के मन में दलित, महादलित, पिछड़े, अति पिछड़े के प्रति कोई सम्मान नहीं है। आरजेडी और कांग्रेस बाबा साहब आंबेडकर की तस्वीर को पैरों में रखती है, जबकि मोदी बाबा साहब आंबेडकर को अपने दिल में रखता है। बाबा साहब का अपमान करके लोग खुद को बाबा साहब से भी बड़ा दिखाना चाहते हैं। बिहार के लोग बाबा साहब का ये अपमान कभी नहीं भूलेंगे।
Dr. Ajay Alok of the BJP and Priyanka Bharti of the RJD join us now. Thank you both of you for joining me on this broadcast. Priyanka Bharti, Maafi is all that the Prime Minister is talking about. If a Maafi could have solved this, why not an apology? You're muted, ma'am.
I'll talk about Maafi, but let me show you something. This is the picture of PM Modi today. So when Drama King entered Bihar, he was wearing a Neela Gamcha. The moment he left Bihar and entered Orissa, he took it off. So see, someone should remind him that this Neela Gamcha is not mere a piece of cloth. It's a symbol of self-respect and dignity for crores of Bahujans. And a person who couldn't carry the Neela Gamcha for even a single day, can he follow the footsteps of Baba Sahab? Let me come to Laluji. He's asking for apologies. We also asked apologies from Amit Shah ji. But let me come to Laluji. If someone talks of Laluji that he asks for forgiveness, no. Everyone would mock them. Because when you talk about Baba Saheb Ambedkar and Laluji, from making a statue of Baba Saheb in front of Patna High Court to giving Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar Bharat Ratna, from giving the students from Dalit communities scholarships to increasing reservations, from renaming Muzaffarpur University on the name of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Laluji has always been and is a stalwart of social justice. But should I answer BJP? See, the leaders of BJP have all in the parliament said, Ambedkar, mat karo. His CM said, his CM just removed the picture of Baba Saheb the moment she entered office. And this is the same BJP who called Hindu Code Bill nuclear weapon and burned effigies
Okay,
of...
that was a very different BJP. Priyanka, I get your point. Dr. Alok, how much is this issue going to resonate with people of Bihar? Because RJD is saying that this video is being misrepresented to polarize voters. But if you look at it, Priyanka, I do agree with the fact that it looks like disrespect. And I do feel that, I know that you will talk about other people who have not apologized and agree with that. Dr. Alok, how do you see this issue resonating with the people of Bihar, specifically those from deprived sections?
Had it not been resonating, they wouldn't have been doing so much of drama and notanki, what these big parties are doing right now. It's a simple question that you can keep the portrait of Baba Saheb in your feet and you take pride in that. And after that, after few hours after that, you can throw the Baba Saheb pictures in the dustbin, which was very much evident on various TV channels shown in the RJD office. Well, that's absolutely their view how to view it and how not to view it. As far as Prime Minister Modi goes and as far as the Bharatiya Janata Party goes, we made punch tests. Who stopped them from doing so? Did we stop them? Congress party can claim Bharat Ratna for themselves. Nehru can give Bharat Ratna to himself. Indira Gandhi can give Bharat Ratna to herself. Rajiv Gandhi can get Bharat Ratna just after death. But Baba Saheb had to wait for 45 long years. Who was stopping? Lalu Yadav was not at all instrumental in Bharat Ratna because in 1990 it was a VP Singh government. Lalu Yadav was busy enjoying his chief ministership and halting Advani's Rath, doing all anti-Hindu act, what he was doing right from the beginning. The question here is, Baba Saheb does not represent a mere Dalit. He represents the whole Indian constitution. He represents the whole India. Don't restrict Baba Saheb to just a formidable Dalit. And don't symbolize Baba Saheb with a Neela Gamcha.
Okay.
In our country, Naxal also wears Neela Gamcha. Don't symbolize Baba Saheb with a Neela Gamcha. Baba Saheb means tricolor. Baba Saheb means constitution of this country. If this much understanding prevails, I guess the country will move in the right track.
Okay, so that's an important point, that we shouldn't be boxing our icons into boxes. Ms. Bharti, but I do feel that with this act, with this episode, there's a certain part of your own social justice, platform, agenda, narrative that has been ceded to the BJP in a state where Nitish Kumar is actually very strong when it comes to the EBC vote, or for that matter, caste census, with both Nitish Kumar and the centre now standing together on caste census, with the centre also sort of announcing this. Do you think that this episode could actually give you some sort of an electoral setback?
Not at all. You see, Ajay Alok calling the persons who take Neela Gamcha Naxals, and his one of MLAs calling the people who raise the slogans of Jai Bhim, calling them criminals, is not shocking for me, because they have been always abusing Ambedkar, beginning from Savarkar. Will he denounce Savarkar today? Because Savarkar wrote in Savarkar Samagra. I can even tell you the pages so that it's easy for you to read. Page number 270, go and read it out. He wrote, Ambedkar Kutil tha, Ambedkar Girit tha, Ambedkar Bhokta tha. Now tell me, the party and the people who follows the footprints of Savarkar, will they ever respect Ambedkar? First of all, you have to make a clear line.
Okay, Dr. Alok, respond to that, because I'm completely out of time. It's an important point. You're saying that, this love that the BJP has for Ambedkar is only because of electoral reasons. It is not ideological, is what the RJD spokesperson is saying.
First, they should decide whom they are fighting with. We are the party and we have the leadership who has Savarkar in our heart and Ambedkar in our mind. And that's how we are running this country for the last 11 years. And country has again and again reposted their faith in the leadership of Modi, not in the thief like Lalu, who is official declared Chara Chor. Declared Chara Chor. And please don't
See, the
compare your
wordings he's
leadership with
using.
anywhere near my leadership.
See the wordings he's
You are
using.
on TV, national TV, that's fine because of a courtesy of our Indian democracy. Otherwise, people like Lalu Yadav should be, they are banned from contesting elections by the Honorable Court. And you have the audacity of making
Priyanka, you wanted to respond to
again.
that? Priyanka, you wanted to respond to that?
The word he used was chara chor, and the word which I would like to use is pocket maro ki party. The party who spies on women. This is the party Alok belongs
completely
to.
out of time now. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Dr. Alok, for joining me on this broadcast. Social justice becoming a political flashpoint in the state of Bihar, known for setting the agenda when it comes to social justice and representation. With that, it's time for a short break. News continues on NDTV. For the latest updates and breaking news, don't forget to subscribe to NDTV YouTube channel.
Well, breaking news we're tracking currently regarding the Air India crash probe. That one black box unit has been damaged.
Suspense over aircraft black box. First details on crucial probe path.
Now, what NDTV has learned is that one unit has been damaged, the other one is okay. A decision will be taken on what to do with the damaged unit.
Indian aviation's biggest investigation. NDTV tracks the probe in real time.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Denzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat, in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over
It is an incredibly unusual situation for one of the most advanced fighter aircraft ever built. An F-35 of the British Navy, the Royal Navy, has been stranded at the Thiruvananthapuram airport in Kerala for 6 days and counting. Around this time, 6 days ago, is when this aircraft had to make an emergency landing. We were told it was low on fuel, but now it turns out the situation is far more serious than believed, and an offer by Air India to put this aircraft into a hangar so it doesn't need to sit out there under the sun and the stars and the rain that is hitting Kerala. Well, the Royal Navy has declined that Air India offer and said they are contemplating what to do with the aircraft, and things are getting steadily more serious ever since NDTV brought this story out into the public domain. It seems like this aircraft is not able to fly just yet. It's not unusual because military aviation is a complicated and safety-first business, but the Royal Navy appears to be struggling to get this aircraft serviceable and safe enough to fly once again. And we are told 3 attempts so far to get this aircraft off the ground have not so far succeeded. NDTV's Deepak Bopanna joins me live from Bengaluru tonight. His team has been looking very closely in Kerala at what's happening with this aircraft. Remember, the F-35 is part of one of the most expensive fighter programs in history, if not the most expensive one. And therefore, all eyes are on this unusual situation where a stealth 5th-generation fighter aircraft, American-built, operated by the Royal Navy, has been sitting at a Kerala airport for the last 6 days and nobody is able to do anything about it. Deepak, I want to quickly come to you. The latest that we have, that we reported earlier today, is that this aircraft, unusually, has been just sitting out there on the airport bay, doing nothing at all. Nobody is able to move it because the Royal Navy has not given permission for it to be moved. They don't want anyone to handle it, apparently. And Air India, which has offered the Royal Navy hangar space to take this aircraft inside a hangar so that it can actually be inspected there, the Royal Navy has actually declined. What are you hearing, Deepak?
Well, Shiv, like you said, this is one of the most, expensive aircrafts ever made, but it's also one of the most complex. And that's where the challenges really are coming in, is what I'm picking up. I've also officially written to the British High Commission. I spoke to a team here in Bengaluru. They didn't have much to say. I've also written to the team in Delhi to get more information officially from them about, what's happened to the aircraft, because unofficially what we are learning, like you said, was initially there was a weather issue, there was a fueling issue, but all of that probably now can be ruled out, considering the fact that it has been there for several days. A team was there to inspect, and try to figure if they can actually take it back to the aircraft carrier, but it doesn't seem like that has worked, considering the complexities involved in fixing any sort of issue with this aircraft. There was, of course, a chopper that flew in, took the pilot back, and that ruled out, any possibility of it being taken in the next 24 to 48 hours as well, when it happened a couple of days ago. Right now, we are told that there will be, information that will be picked up from back home. If there is a need to fly in any special engineers as well, that is a possibility too, the next 24 to 48 hours. Like you said, any help that has been offered to them that has been rejected, whether they will reconsider that request, that is something that remains to be seen.
Well, it's quite strange, but also a little surprising to see that the Royal Navy has declined an offer for an aircraft that is hugely expensive, is coated with materials that are, need constant maintenance to be able to maintain the kind of stealth that this aircraft enjoys, allowing it to be virtually invisible to radar. Well, they've actually declined that offer to put that aircraft inside a hangar, possibly due to the fact that this aircraft has a lot of secretive technologies, and there may be concerns over letting this aircraft out of their sight, even though the Royal Navy has requested a ground handling agency that they can control in this manner. Deepak, thanks very much for that. We're trying to get a word in from Air India as well about what else they might be offering to the Royal Navy at this time. But why is this F-35, one of the most advanced fighters in the world, still grounded? And is India unable to help the Royal Navy get this aircraft back in the air? Well, let's just show you some details of what we know so far about why this aircraft may be still grounded. We are hearing about a hydraulic failure. That appears to be confirmed. There appear to be some kind of an engine issue with the aircraft as well. That's also being reported in local media. Now remember, inspection requires secrecy, and obviously the Royal Navy can't get complete secrecy over there because this is, after all, an Indian airfield, even though they've been given the option, like I said, of moving the aircraft into a hangar, an option that they have so far not exercised or accepted. Maybe the Royal Navy is awaiting some special parts or special equipment. It needs specialized equipment or parts because, like I said, this is a very, very protected proprietary technology aircraft where you don't have common standard spare parts just lying around in any airfield, and therefore maybe what is wrong with this aircraft needs a kind of fix that can only come from Britain or from the United States, and not even something that can come from the ship, the HMS Prince of Wales, which is where this aircraft actually came from. Now, the F-35's problem may actually be bigger than believed. In fact, we've got some breaking news coming in now. News agency ANI, quoting defense officials, is saying that the problems with this F-35 stealth fighter that's been stuck on the ground for 6 days and counting may have a problem that is bigger than previously believed. We are given to believe that a third attempt by British technicians to maintain the aircraft, repair it, and get it serviceable to fly back to its ship actually did not succeed in getting the aircraft airborne and flyworthy again, and therefore it is still sitting on the tarmac at the Thiruvananthapuram airport. What is even more alarming, perhaps, is that defense officials say that the option of a British transport aircraft arriving in India or an American transport aircraft arriving in India to carry this aircraft back, carry the F-35 back, is being seen as a possibility. It may need to be ferried back. That is how serious the potential problem with this aircraft could be at this point of time. Let's make sense of this, and I want to make it very clear that on NDTV we are reporting this story because it is an unusual one. It is an advanced fighter. These things do happen in aviation. Aircraft can be grounded for days together for various problems. There are logistical issues, there are security issues, there are maintenance issues, there are diplomatic issues as well, and therefore this is a story with many different layers making the headlines. Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, former Indian Air Force pilot, he served as Director General of Inspection and Flight Safety during his career. Dr. Guy Grattan is Associate Professor of Aviation and Environment, Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science at the Sir Peter Gregson Aerospace Integration and Research Center. Thanks very much, Dr. Grattan. I'll start with you first, Dr. Guy Grattan. What are you making of this F-35 on ground for 6 days and counting? We understand now that 3 attempts have been made by Royal Navy technicians to get this aircraft off the ground and back to its ship, perhaps. Those have not succeeded so far. What do you think is going on? We've heard everything from hydraulic failure to engine fault. Your view, sir?
I think it's probably down to the sheer complexity of the modern fighter. I mean, the aeroplane you're looking at in front of you is tons of very high technology equipment. Everything is state-of-the-art, and the nature of state-of-the-art technology is that everything is interrelated. Everything is unfortunately less reliable than you would like because it's all been designed to achieve the maximum of performance. So my guess, and it is only a guess, is that the Royal Navy are really struggling with probably some kind of complex, multifaceted failure. And clearly, they need to be absolutely confident of this before they look to fly it again. Hence what you've just reported about the possibility of a transport aircraft taking it away from India does make quite a lot of sense, because then they can take it back to a rear maintenance base like RAF Maran, and then, I mean, presumably just pull the whole thing apart so they can be absolutely certain of it before it flies again.
Dr. Grattan, at this point of time, there is another piece of information that we've reported that an offer has been made to move this aircraft into a hangar for a closer inspection. That has been declined to our understanding by the Royal Navy, at least so far. Do you have a view on why that could be? We're hearing all sorts of things. There are security implications, etc.
They're clearly balancing the protection of the aircraft from the security. And F-35, which is obviously an American-led program with a lot of American security controls behind it, is one where the Navy have got to be very, very careful about who might potentially have access.
Yeah.
And I suspect if we had a latest Indian aircraft stuck at a British airport, exactly the same thing would be happening, that the Indian Air Force would be prioritizing the security and the ability to survey the aircraft. And in this case also, bear in mind it's a navalized fighter. It's designed to operate off the decks of ships, so it is very robust with regard to the weather. So they are probably less concerned about that than they are with the aircraft being out of their control in somebody else's hangar.
Interesting. Dr. Grattan, the F-35B, this particular F-35 is the US Marine Corps and the Royal Navy version, which is basically a jump jet. Complicated aircraft, like you said. This particular one has a lift fan, and there's this huge symphony of moving parts in this aircraft, considered to be the most complicated of the three varieties of the F-35. Could that have something to do with it as well?
I think it's impossible to tell without having access to information that clearly none of us do.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, any latest generation fighter is a fantastically complex machine. And the number of ways in which a fighter can go wrong is enormous. So, yeah, there are so many things that can go wrong. And clearly, they've had a fault that caused them to divert. And it's entirely possible that led to further faults, or they have found further faults while they've been inspecting the aircraft. And perhaps they're going for the lesser embarrassment of being stuck on the ground in India than something going wrong on the flight back to the ship.
Yeah, very true. Air Marshal Kapoor, bringing you in on this conversation, and this is the second time we're talking about this week. The Indian Air Force has said that they've extended all possible support. The CISF is protecting the aircraft. Air India made an offer to move this aircraft in, but like Dr. Prattan said, there are compulsions and sensitivities as far as technology are concerned, and that's one of the reasons why perhaps it hasn't moved into a hangar right now. Your view on that, Air Marshal?
See, good evening, Dr. Grattan, and Shiv, good evening to you. My take, I told you day before also, this aircraft is secretly guarded for a lot of reasons. And to open its panels and to start accessing and working on this would somehow need approvals from Lockheed Martin and US government. Even the Royal Air Force, if it has to work on this aeroplane in a third country, I'm not sure, but my guess is there would be certain clauses by which they would have to seek some permission.
Yes.
Now, next issue is out in the open. There is, though they have offered, the Air India has offered hangar because Trivandrum does have 2 hangars where this can be parked. How long will it take to get the jacks, machines, cranes, other equipment to open it? And it has to be in a dust-protected environment, like Dr. Gretton said. At no amount of, so the dust-proof kind of environment which is needed to work on this aeroplane may not be existing. Plus, the bigger factor is that they may not be wanting to open this aircraft here for various reasons. So it would be prudent for it to be taken back. That's what I told you day before also.
Yeah.
And they would be requesting, say, the Royal Air Force or a C-5 from the US Air Force or C-17. I don't know what make this aircraft can fit into. And though it's a naval version, so wings may be, easily detachable kind or a foldable kind. I'm not sure in this version. But I'm sure the whole aim would be to fly it back and then take it to a place where that can be opened and checked.
But there are diplomatic, mechanisms in place for this kind of thing, Air Marshal Kapoor. India and the UK do have a robust defense relationship, obviously, in terms of also logistical support with each other. But this concerns a very protected piece of technology, and that's perhaps why the problems.
We have been doing regular exercises with the Royal Air Force. I have personally been involved in 2 of them. These exercises are flag named as Indradhanush. And Typhoons and other aeroplanes, their AWC, AWACS, refuelers have come to our bases and we have gone there. That's normal. Now, when you go for international exercises, the understanding is that each country supports. In this case, this is not a joint exercise. In this case, it is not an exercise where the 2 air forces are engaged in some activity. It is a diversion from an aircraft carrier to a civil airfield. It's not even a military airfield. It's a civil airfield. So this aircraft has diverted and it's parked in the open. And as it is parked in open, it is attracting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And of course, the Lockheed people have come and gone. Like you covered 2 days ago, the people from the ship, also the HMS has come and seen this. So I think so it is beyond local repairs. They would be working on that.
Yeah.
Now, what the approvals they would be working at back end, because a large amount of US forces are in this area as we speak.
Correct.
In this area. These aeroplanes are around in a lot of US bases in and around. Maybe one option is they can then take it to that base from where they are operating, NATO base or a Air Force base, and could work on it if it has to join back ship, or if the call is taken to take it back to UK, that option is also existing.
Dr. Pratton, has this story of this F-35 on the ground here in India sparked any interest or coverage in the British press and media? It is here. Has it reflected there?
Very surprisingly, it's almost missing from the news here. The first I knew about it was when one of your colleagues contacted me this morning asking if I could talk about it. I did go and look, and there are 1 or 2 of the British newspapers have mentioned it, but this does seem to be very quiet, and I do wonder if the British Ministry of Defence have quietly asked our journalists to save them some embarrassment by not putting this on the headlines here in Britain. So very interesting story, which now I know about it, I shall certainly be following continuously.
But why would you think that is? Is it really embarrassing, Dr. Pratton? Because, I know we're covering it, but, a military aircraft on the ground isn't exactly an unusual thing. Is this that much of an embarrassment?
To me, no, it's not. Military aircraft are complex, sometimes unreliable, and this is a very common event. Clearly, having a classified military asset unwantedly on the ground in a foreign country, even one as friendly as India, is a bit awkward and creates a lot of diplomatic fuss and so on.
Yeah.
So, but presumably somebody somewhere either thinks, I can't imagine they don't think this is interesting. So I think they must think that this is embarrassing, or that the public gossip in Britain will just get in the way of them solving the problem from this side of the world.
Well, looking forward to you following it up, and I'm happy to say that you heard about this story from NDTV. That's good to hear, and we will continue to report.
Thank you for telling me.
Absolutely. Stay with me. I also have with me on this, who's just joined the show, Patrick Smith is also an aircraft pilot. He runs the very popular Ask the Pilot website and portal. Patrick, welcome. Thanks for being with us here on this coverage. We were just speaking to Dr. Prattan and Air Marshal Kapoor. Your views very quickly, Patrick, on this F-35 that is stranded here in India, an American aircraft being operated by the Royal Navy.
Yeah, this could be almost anything. This is a tough one to answer and get into because there's just so little information about what exactly is going on. And maybe military authorities might not be completely forthcoming as to what the situation is. So any number of possibilities there. It's hard to say.
And we were just talking a moment ago before you joined us on the fact that this is protected technology. India, of course, doesn't have F-35, so it doesn't have a support ecosystem to help this aircraft, even though the F-35 is separately on offer to India. Could that be one of the reasons that the special parts or equipment don't exist here, and therefore the aircraft hasn't been able to fly yet?
That is certainly plausible. I think you just said it better than I could. That scenario you just encapsulated, is basically what I would have said. Too many question marks, too many unknowns to really get a sense of why the plane's there, what's wrong with it.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me, Patrick, Dr. Grattan, and Air Marshal Kapoor, for joining me on this particular segment. Some of them are going to stay with me for our next story coming up as well. But before I let go of the F-35 story, I had to bring you this because it's been going more viral than the story itself. Well, take a look at this. Someone called Donald Trumpan has put that poor F-35 that's stranded in Kerala up on OLX. Well, if people don't remember OLX, OLX is a very popular auction site. And there you have it. On the 16th of June, someone's put up a picture of that F-35 and said the starting bid is $4 million, which is about, a small fraction of the actual cost of this aircraft. But there you have it, Internet 1 F-35-0. That's the way it rolls here in this country. Well, we're certainly hoping that this F-35 is able to fly again and return to base. We wish all pilots, all technicians safety. This is a risky and difficult and complicated business. And as we continue to bring you that story, which remember first broke here on NDTV 6 days ago, all we wish for is the safety of all military personnel in this country. Taking a very quick break, back with much more on the other side. Stay with us. What is the status, if you can share with us, of India's hypersonic missile?
The hypersonic glide missile is in a much more advanced state. We have done one development trial. In the next 2 to 3 years, we'll complete all the development trials and then it should get inducted.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaroop. Only on NDTV 24/7.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
As soon as possible evacuate किया जाए.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail.
And on NDTV, we're tracking every moment of the Iran-Israel clash that is escalating into a war-like situation. The breaking story that we're bringing to you right now, a fresh wave of Iranian missiles has just hit Israel. At least 17 people injured in different places, and we are told that at least 3 are in serious condition. These people have been wounded after Iran's latest missile salvo with explosions reported in several locations. This is, at last count, the 12th missile salvo that Iran has fired into Israel. So these are the details that we're bringing to you at this point of time. Remember, earlier today, NDTV had reported Israel's claim that Iran had been firing missiles containing cluster munitions over Israel, causing a huge amount of widespread damage in some places. And I want to show you what that actually looks like. These are images of the damage in one of those places where a cluster bomb is said to have fallen in Israel. What precise kind of cluster bomb this was is not known just yet, but I do have an animation to tell you what a cluster bomb is on NDTV. We are decoding every aspect of the destructive weapons being used. This is what a cluster munition looks like. Now, this is, of course, only representative, but a missile or a bomb launched from Iran that a few kilometers above the ground simply detonates, sending a huge number of bomblets or submunitions in different directions, covering a wide area. We are told that the explosion took place about 7 kilometers in the air, and then the munitions basically spider-webbed out in that way, fanned out and struck different targets, therefore causing maximum damage over a wide area. So this is what a cluster bomb looks like. Israel says they've got information about one particular cluster munition being used, and it could actually be used again. Now, cluster munitions are, of course, controversial because there are UN conventions prohibiting the use of cluster bombs. So we'll be reporting that very, very closely. Now, remember that Trump has provided a 2-week notice to Iran. There is every sense that there may be a direct United States-led attack on Iran. But if that actually happens, if the United States steps into this big war, given how things are actually going between Iran and Israel, it's going to take one of the deadliest non-nuclear weapons to actually conduct what the United States wants to do, which is to hit Iran's deep-seated Fordo nuclear facility. Now, the B-2 stealth bomber, one of the prized possessions of the American strategic forces, is an American stealth bomber. When you hear the word stealth bomber, this is the aircraft that they're actually talking about. This aircraft would need to drop a bomb, and I'm going to show you that bomb getting out of the bomb bay of this aircraft. There it is. It drops out, and it may look small in these images, viewer, but this is an enormous 20-foot GBU-57. What you're looking at is basically the mother of all non-nuclear bombs. It's a precision-guided bunker buster bomb, 30,000 pounds, 20 feet in length, absolutely enormous piece of weaponry. And this weapon, called the GBU-57, will basically be dropped from a B-2 if it comes to that, if Trump decides to pull the trigger. And then what it has to do is penetrate into alloy concrete earth up to 150 feet or 200 feet. 61 meters deep is where the Fordo nuclear facility is situated. It has to go all the way down, efficiently destroy bunkers, tunnels and everything in its path. And remember, it's all reinforced stuff built there to protect that. It is guided with a GPS and inertial navigation system. And once it reaches this bunker area where the actual nuclear facility is, then it actually has to explode. And it carries a warhead of a staggering 2.2 tons, one of the largest non-nuclear warheads on Earth. So when it reaches this point 200 feet deep is when it explodes. It does not get triggered until it actually reaches that point. That's how it's been triggered to behave. Now, we know about this weapon. It will be a last resort weapon because of the destructive qualities of it. But the United States has a lot of other weapons that if Trump decides to pull the trigger and get directly involved in punishing Iran for what's going on, then here's a look at some of the other American weapons that will almost definitely have to play a part. And remember, these are only suggestions of what a scenario might look like, not to suggest even for a moment that this will actually happen. The F-22 Raptor, it's the Rolls-Royce of stealth aircraft. It was the first fifth-generation fighter to enter service. It's an air superiority aircraft. This will almost definitely get into the play. The B-2 Spirit is the stealth bomber that I told you about. The F-18 Super Hornet is a naval carrier-based fighter that is the staple of the US Navy's aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. And of course, the F-15 Eagle is the US Air Force's prized airstrike machine. So these are the aircraft that will probably be part of any fight if Trump decides to get involved directly. Missiles and drones, those are the aircraft. Missiles and drones, the Tomahawk long-range land attack cruise missile, which first saw action in the original Gulf War of 1991, could possibly be brought back into the game this time. This is a missile that can be launched from ships as well as from submarines. There's also something called the AGM-158 JASSM. It's a stealth cruise missile, again, very, very long range air-launched cruise missile that could possibly be used against Iran. It's a stealthy cruise missile, as you can tell from that shape. The AGM-114 Hellfire missile is something that is fired from MQ-9 Reaper drones, or the Predator drones. The armed variety will be firing these. And just a small side nugget, this is a weapon that is already in service with the Indian Air Force as well, though not on drones. These are there on our Apache helicopters. There are obviously warships that are going to get get into the game as well. The USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier is already in the Mediterranean at this point of time. The USS Nimitz has just exited the South China Sea and will almost definitely play a part in this. These are enormous floating airfields with so many fighters on board. The fighter population on board one of these ships dwarf many countries' air forces, in fact. But apart from aircraft carriers, the carrier battle groups will play a big role if it becomes an escalated affair. The Ticonderoga class guided missile cruisers are a staple of the US Navy. And finally, Virginia-class nuclear-powered attack submarines, which can fire land attack cruise missiles and that kind of thing. Now, if Trump pulls the trigger, he will also need bases from which to actually wage what could be a long and destructive battle. If it comes to that, and it's only a big if, remember, and that will become clearer in the next 2 weeks, the US has no shortage of bases in West Asia from which it can stage some of these attacks. Take a look. That's where Iran is, but the United States has bases all over the place. It has the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. It's the largest US military base outside of the United States. 100 aircraft and drones, 8,000 troops. Major air operations hub is right there in Qatar. Just off the Persian Gulf is where you can actually see it. You've got another airbase in Bahrain. It is basically a naval support hub. 9,000 personnel, US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters is right there. Look at how close it is to Iran, and you can tell logistically how this would all happen. Saudi Arabia has the Prince Sultan Air Base, 2,700 US troops, strategic air power base where the United States is able to stage many of its long-range aircraft. Kuwait has Camp Arif Jan, which has been there since the 1991 Gulf War, located 55 kilometers southeast of Kuwait City. It's a key logistics and joint force base. Remember, logistics is very important, and please look at how close it is to the Iranian mainland. And finally, UAE's Al Dhafra Air Base, which is familiar to us in India because that's where the Indian Air Force has conducted many joint exercises, is a huge base. 3,500 troops, hosts advanced aircraft like F-22 Raptors, fighters, surveillance planes, drones, intelligence surveillance and strike operations are supported from the Al Dhafra base. So all around Iran, including Iraq's Erbil Air Base, which is of course controlled entirely by the United States, is also available over there. In Syria, the post-Assad era, but even before, US troops are present in various areas and they are actually vulnerable to attacks from Iran. But if you take a look at this entire map right now, there are smaller logistical hubs in different places, but Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Syria, the US has a military base presence, which means that should push come to shove, should at the end of these 2 weeks the United States decides to pull the trigger and get involved directly with Iran, it has no shortage of bases from where to stage that attack. So while on the one end, EU allies now seem to have clarity on the present situation between Iran and Israel, they're waiting for a word from who else but America and President Trump, the president who will not decide for at least a fortnight by his own telling. This report tells you about the twists and turns Trump's Middle East strategy has taken in the last fortnight.
14 days. That's how long President Trump has paused a decision that could ignite a war with Iran. After signaling the US might strike Iran's underground nuclear site, Trump suddenly slammed the brakes, citing a chance at diplomacy. Some critics even call it taco. Trump always chickens out.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that.
But Trump's history says otherwise. He sets deadlines before and does nothing later. Yet this isn't about tweets or trade wars. This is about war plans. Before the war broke out, Trump asked Israel not to act. But then after Israel's strike, Trump called them excellent. Trump then warned Khamenei that he knows the exact location of the Iranian supreme leader. and then double down on the warning of an unconditional surrender, only to say he may or may not do anything about Iran. As things stand, 14 days is too long a time to predict in the complex and volatile Middle East.
Okay, we've got another big news break coming in at this point of time on the Air India AI 171 crash exclusive. Details on the black box, where one black box unit has been damaged. The unit's outer surface has been damaged and may have to be sent abroad. NDTV can confirm that the black box may need to be sent to one of 3 foreign facilities, if not an Indian facility called HAL's facility in Lucknow. There is concern over opening the black box at this point of time. Randomized surveillance of flights has increased. The aviation watchdog has stepped up surveillance as well. Vishnu Shom is live with me for more on this. Vishnu, big exclusive details that you've obtained today on the Air India crash. The black box is what everyone's looking at very closely right now. Your story moves it forward many steps. We're told that there is concern over the damage to the black box. And even though a decision hasn't been taken yet, there's a possibility it may need to be decoded abroad. And there are 3 possible destinations for that. Tell us why.
Actually, Shiv, there are 4, and one of them is France, which I haven't reported thus far, but since you're asking me, France is also a possibility. But remember that Airbus is headquartered in France. This was a Boeing aircraft, so whether this would actually be sent to France to be decoded, we don't know. The other options are the NTSB, the National Transport Safety Bureau in the United States, the United Kingdom regulator, or Singapore. Now, only one of the 2 black boxes is damaged. The other black box is okay. There is a possibility of that black box being decoded in India, possibly by Hindustan Aeronautics at a facility near Lucknow. Now, the data, it is expected or it is assumed, between both black boxes will be identical. So sooner than later, we should have that data. However, there is also that possibility that they decide that both these black boxes need to be sent abroad. Now, what we do know in terms of damage of that one black box unit is that it's the outer casing which has been damaged. But given the fact that it is, they want to ensure that the best possible hands have access to it so that the chip inside is not scratched when it is recovered. That chip goes into a drive and the data is then retrieved. It's binary data, which is translated into engineering data on the basis of which the report will be written itself. Now, will there be a preliminary report or will there be one final report? That's something that hasn't at the moment been decided. For now, as far as the Directorate General of Civil Aviation is concerned, there are various searches or scans, I should say, of aircraft on a randomized basis to ensure that flight safety, Shiv, remains paramount.
Vishnu, your news break takes the story forward, like I said, many steps. It adds important detail in an area where there has been a lot of speculation over the last 24 hours. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for that. 4 possible destinations for the black box that is damaged. There is concern over whether it can be handled satisfactorily and retrieved and decoded with its data satisfactorily here in India. I want to get an expert view on this as well. Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor continues to be with me. He's been a former Director General of Inspection and Flight Safety with the Air Force. Dr. Guy Grattan, who you saw in our previous segment, is still with us. Thank you, gentlemen, for your patience. Apologies for coming to you a little late. Dr. Grattan, I quickly want to come to you first because it is being reported that the black box has sustained some measure of damage. Again, not unusual. We've seen this happen before. And it's possible that India may need to send that black box abroad. The UK, France, Singapore, the United States are being listed as possible destinations where this may happen. Your views on that?
Whilst you can understand that India might wish to try and do this in-house, as you like, certainly Britain, France and America all have world-leading facilities for accessing the data recorders and for protecting the data inside while opening them. Very hard to say which of any of them is the best, because all three of them are very, very good. But you can imagine that this causes some political difficulties, because clearly the Indian authorities want to maintain absolute control of the integrity of the box and its contents. Nonetheless, I wouldn't worry, because once that device has been removed from the aircraft and is being protected by the investigators, there's very little risk of the condition of what's inside it deteriorating. So whilst the Indian AAIB are talking to their international colleagues about this, I don't think anything is being lost, apart from the simple fact that, of course, everybody would like to hear the answers as soon as they can be found.
Yes. Marshal Kapoor, do you want to add to that? There are concerns that data might be lost, but these are very robust devices. So what are these concerns really about then, sir?
The recent accidents that have taken place, the 737 MAX accidents, both of Lion Air and Ethiopian Air, and also the Air France accident, which took place a few years ago over Atlantic of Brazilian aircraft, which took off from Brazil. The black boxes after recovery were sent to OEMs for analysis. Now, there is nothing wrong in sending these aeroplanes, these black boxes for analysis. But the issue here, the larger issue, is that India has got one of the largest commercial aeroplanes in pipeline, which we have ordered, and we are the fastest growing civil aviation country. So we have set up our own state-of-the-art facility close to Lucknow, and HAL has the required knowledge and wherewithal. So the whole aim being that we should try and decipher this in our own country. That is the first. Gone are the years when we didn't have these kind of facilities and we had to rely on OEM. But now today, now coming to the safety of the product which we need to analyze and study, that would be, of course, safe. This is, shock-proof.
Yes.
This box which you're just showing, it can withstand temperatures up to 1,000 degrees centigrade, take about 20 to 30 G on any direction on impact. It is sea-water resistant. All that is there. So it is designed to be in a position that as and when the aircraft crashes or ditches or goes anywhere, it is easy to recover this flight data recorder. So that way there is no concern.
Yeah.
And like Vishnu said, that there are two of them. So this is just to rule out the redundancies and a sense of comparison from the two sources from where it is taken.
Dr. Grattan, you've seen the very upsetting videos of the actual crash. There are two videos that have emerged. And I do acknowledge that over the last 8 days, there's been plenty of speculation. A lot of things have been said about what may have happened. But a lot of the conversation has been of a serious nature, trying to decode what could have happened, because it is not often that there are videos of an actual accident of this kind. While we talk about the black box, would you give us your view of what you think may have happened?
I don't think I can, and I don't think I should. This is an awful tragedy.
Yes.
Hundreds of families have been ripped apart by it. And we really do not have good quality information yet to allow any meaningful analysis of what occurred. And if we start to do that, then we may be giving false ideas to these poor families. So, no, I can't and I shouldn't conject about what may have caused this awful tragedy.
I have a deep amount of respect for that answer, but I will ask a different question in that case, which is on the black box itself. Typically, Dr. Grattan, how long would it take, in your view, to get all this information downloaded, to analyze and interpret it based on what we know?
So once the contents of the box have been accessed, which clearly is still an issue, that data should all be downloaded and processed within a day. However, from there, you have got the painstaking work of the investigators in analysing around 1,000 different parameters on the flight data recorder. I think it's 5 different microphones on the voice recorder, and understanding what picture that is putting together for the investigators. So once the box is opened, I would hope within a day they have the data. The reality is it could well take some weeks before the investigators have a reasonable picture of what occurred. They're obviously adding to that the information that they're getting from the examination of the wreckage, from eyewitness interviews and so on. So now I would think it is possible that the investigators may have an initial idea of what occurred within 30 days, and they may elect to make an interim report. But it is paramount that they don't go public with what they think until there's a large degree of certainty about that.
Marshal Kapoor, at a time when emotions have been running high for a week, the DNA of the remains of those passengers are still to be matched completely. We understand about 220 of those bodies have been matched and the remains have been given back to each family. At a time when emotions, anger, confusion about this accident are still very much palpable, the sense of urgency for answers is something that is very difficult to ignore. But what Dr. Grattan says is right. This is a process that needs to take its time so that the correct answers actually emerged. And you've been in the hot seat of flight safety in the Air Force, so you know what that pressure is like. Tell us about that.
The investigators must be doing the work, and they are working round the clock. And what I gather is a very high-level committee has been set, roping in people from all verticals of the government and civil aviation to work on this. And it takes time. It takes time, and we shouldn't push because the correct lessons should emerge, and part information and part analysis is always construed in another manner. Typically, in my opinion, it would be 3 to 4 months, in my appreciation, till the final report comes out. It may take a little longer also. They go into every aspect. The whole flight would be reconstructed right from the start. And it would include everything from the time it landed at Ahmedabad to the time it took off to the time it crashed. From various angles, from all the CCTV footages, from all the hundreds of parameters which the FDR and there are many microphones like the co-panelist just mentioned, what each person spoke. It is collaborated with the time graph. So on the right side of this complete is the second. It is in microseconds. It is 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 0.15. So these are all on an actual scene. And if some portions are found, they are taken into a hangar and reconstructed there. Every accident is reconstructed of whatever remains, because each part has a story to say. The way engines have been impacted. If the engine has impacted with full power, it will be in a different shape. If it has impacted with partial power, and if it had no power at all. So all three have different. So this is how the analysis is done, just for ease of understanding.
Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor and Dr. Guy Grattan, grateful for your time and wisdom on this complicated, shape-shifting story. And we all would sooner hear what really happened, but we have to respect the process, and we will continue to do that here on NDTV. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with me. Patrick Smith of Ask the Pilot is also with us, and I wanted to be able to squeeze a couple of questions in with him as well. Patrick, thanks so much for waiting. Appreciate it. Your views on precisely what we were talking about, the black box that's apparently damaged and might need some help.
Well, the first thing I need to say is that although in some respects 8 days after an accident, a week after an accident sounds like a long time, it's really not. And the worst thing you can do after a serious aviation accident is speculate too much.
Yeah.
Usually when you do that, your initial theories turn out to be misguided or incomplete or completely wrong. Aviation accidents take weeks, months, sometimes years before they're solved. And we live in an age when everybody wants fast, easy, complete answers right away. And that's just not possible when it comes to things like this. We have to be patient. We have to let the investigators do their thing, and we have to be careful not to throw too many theories and too many ideas out there, because, as I just said, often doing that is the worst thing you can do, because you turn out to be wrong in the end. And that's not fair to the parties involved.
You're right, Patrick. There has been a vast amount of speculation. There also, of course, has been quite a bit of serious discussion and conversation by people with domain knowledge of what may have happened, people who've been pilots, like yourself as well. The dual engine failure theory appears to have gathered a fair bit of substantial credence in the last few days, based on what we've seen, based on those two videos as well. What do you think about that?
I would agree with that. And everything I just said notwithstanding, this accident is starting to lean a certain way. And what we're seeing, what's being suggested, the evidence that's out there right now, what it's pointing to is that for one reason or another, the airplane lost power in both engines, basically at the moment it took off. The question, of course, the big question is, why did that happen? And that can go a few different ways at this point.
It could indeed, which is why the black box a story that we've been reporting becomes even more important, because we're hearing that it has sustained some damage and that it could be a while before we actually get to know what's inside. Your views on that?
Yeah, that's not terribly unusual following a crash like this. The data recorders, voice recorder, could sustain some amount of damage, but they still will give up their secrets, so to speak. And the digital data recorders on a plane like the Boeing 787 contain a tremendous amount of information, and I'm pretty confident that that data will be released, will be transcribable, will be available despite any damage that the recorders are showing at this point.
32 seconds is the amount of time flight AI 171 spent in the air, Patrick. How much data would be there on the black box once that data is retrieved? How much?
I can't tell you exactly. I'm not sure precisely what parameters are recorded by the data recorders, but certainly an ample amount and enough to get a solid sense of what went wrong. And on top of the flight data recorder, you have the cockpit voice recorder, which will have its recording. And putting all of that together, like I said, I'm pretty confident that we will understand what happened, if not exactly why, right away. This could come down to being some electronic issue buried deep within the systems of the 787, something that went haywire electronically for whatever reason, brought power in both of the engines back at the absolute worst time. So again, talking like that gets into the too much speculation that I was referencing earlier. It does seem like the plane lost power in both engines at takeoff. Why, we don't know.
How long, Patrick, do you think this probe will actually take? NDTV reported today that it's possible that the black box will need to be sent abroad decision hasn't been taken yet, but it's a possibility. How long will it take?
I do. It's difficult to articulate why exactly, but the dynamics of this seem relatively straightforward. We have the entire airplane, we have video, or we're going to have the flight data recorder. We're going to have pretty much everything we need. Fingers crossed, it shouldn't be that difficult to put this together.
And one final question, because this is something that played out in the initial days of the investigation right after the crash, when pilot error, crew error became almost a kind of impulsive thing that people started to say. I wondered what you thought of that, Patrick.
I'm also fairly confident to say that based on what we know so far, based on the evidence that's out there, based on the videos, I'm not sensing that this was any blatant mistake on the crew's part. I'm not seeing pilot error as a red flag here. It's not pointing in that direction. It's pointing more towards some kind of catastrophic technical failure, the causes of which are a whole other conversation.
Patrick Smith of AskThePilot.com, thank you very much for speaking to us here on NDTV. This is an important story for us, and we are committed to seeing it till the end. We don't know how long it's going to take for that investigation to emerge with a preliminary and then a final report. But people are waiting for answers. The families of those who are lost and a country at large is waiting for what happened to Flight AI 171. We will, I promise you, continue to report it here on NDTV. Well, thanks very much for watching India Matters tonight. It's a wrap, and it's over now to Maria, who's taking you forward on the next big global story, what's happening between Iran and Israel.
That's right, but I must compliment you for being relentless in tracking the entire investigation, Shiv. Hello everyone, we are shifting focus now to left, right and center. I'm Maria Shakil. Tonight we turn to a conflict that could possibly redraw the map of the Middle East and test global diplomacy like never before. And as tensions between Israel and Iran reach a boiling point, Donald Trump has set an ominous 2-week deadline, while the Biden administration, remember, walked a tightrope of silence and strategy. In this, the brink of war or the last gasp of deterrence? And where does the world stand as proxies gather, rhetoric sharpens, and red lines blur? The war between Israel and Iran, remember, has entered its 7th day, marked by intense military exchanges and significant loss of life. US President Donald Trump will decide whether or not the US gets directly involved in the Iran-Israel conflict within the next 2 weeks. That's what the White House has said. The news, remember, comes 24 hours after Trump said that he has not made up his mind on joining this conflict. What all has happened in the last 24 hours? Let's do a quick recap. There were reports that had suggested that Trump had approved plans to attack Iran, but had not made a final decision on whether to go ahead. Now the US president has said that he will take a call in 2 weeks' time. On ground in Israel, an Iranian ballistic missile directly struck Soroka Medical Center in southern Israel, causing extensive damage to a building used for surgeries. The hospital serving over 1 million people. Iran, though, has denied having any role. Now, to a very crucial statement which has been made by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has said that Iran would pay a heavy price for the hospital strike. Israel's defense minister has gone further. Mr. Katz has said that Khamenei openly declares that he wants Israel destroyed. He personally gives the order to fire on hospitals, and he says such a man can no longer be allowed to exist. So the pitch, if you see it, ladies and gentlemen, it's only going up.
It's only going up with every passing hour. So what does that two-week deadline mean? The White House, remember, has announced that Donald Trump would determine within the next 2 weeks whether to launch a military strike on Iran. For US President Donald Trump, the phrase 2 weeks has almost emerged as a fixture in his speeches and policy making. But because he has set this deadline, everybody is waiting and watching out for as to what will be his next move. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, Qatar are engaged in frantic efforts at diplomacy to end the conflict between Israel and Iran and ensure peace and stability in this wider region. Because there will be a spillover of the conflict or the Iranian government's collapse are both worrying outcomes for the energy-rich region, this entire region, which hosts several major US military bases. Peace and stability have been central to the rise of Gulf powers, be it Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, who are now being seen as economies which are driven by business and tourism. And in order to avert this crisis, Saudi Arabia, which is the world's biggest oil exporter, has been talking to Iran and United States since day one. On the other hand, in Europe, top UK, France, and Germany diplomats are pushing for 11-hour diplomacy with Iran in Geneva. Will it actually happen? What's going to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours? All that is going to be extremely crucial. We have a top war analyst joining us now. John Spencer is chair of urban warfare studies, and he's joining me from Colorado. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. Are we looking at a point of no return in this Israel-Iran conflict, or is there still, one would say, John, a viable back channel of diplomacy operating beneath the surface?
Well, war is always a contest of will, and it always has a political objective. So ultimately, yes, the diplomatic measures, and you would hope that the Islamic regime in Iran would have some rationale and basically agree to that diplomatic solution. But absolutely, that's still a chance for that. And that is, from all that I'm seeing, despite Israel's dominance of Iran's skies right now and what it's eliminating in Iran, that there is this massive push. And just from the President Trump perspective, I wouldn't wait for the 2-week mark. I think President Trump is waiting till he needs to or can assist, although Israel is doing a really good job on destroying Iran's nuclear program. They've killed 14 of 15 nuclear scientists. They've taken out every nuclear site except Fordo, the deeper buried one. The U.S. National Security Council is now meeting daily on the situation. So although since this operation started on the 61st day of the 60 days that President Trump gave Iran, Iran shouldn't take Trump's timelines as not serious, but I think you could still see options of the U.S. assisting to end the conflict quicker. Everybody wants a diplomatic end. And lastly, it's pretty ridiculous that Iran would say they had no part in striking a hospital. Their propaganda machine rivals that of Pakistan and what we saw in Operation Sindhu.
So how has Israel's recent military strategy effectively crossed Tehran's red lines? And what do you think Iran's likely next move will be? Will it be retaliation or restraint?
So at this moment, I don't see Iran showing any restraint, but Israel is not only hitting their over 20 senior commanders, they just eliminated the next head of the military that Iran appointed to the military. They've also taken out Iran's ability to retaliate. So they've taken out 40 to 50% of Iran's rocket launchers, because that's really the main and only way that Iran has an ability to retaliate to Israel specifically, although they could activate proxies across the Middle East and even in other countries like the United States. But right now, mainly, Iran can retaliate with ballistic missiles, but Israel is showing immense amounts of capability to target that capability before it's launched and to defend against it. there's recent strikes as of today, and Iran had zero impact of their ballistic missiles. And the United States is positioning more aircraft carriers into the region that are basically a defense. So I don't know about red lines. Israel's objective is very clear. Iran's objectives are less clear on what they're trying to achieve, other than to reach some type of position where they keep their nuclear program, which now you have the world. I mean, even the G7 conference, Iran cannot have a nuclear program.
But Donald Trump's 2-week deadline, I mean, what does that mean militarily or diplomatically? Is it bluster or a sign of some serious intent?
No, I think it's serious intent. The president has been a man of his word thus far, especially since he took office. And I know that 2-week mark has been kind of normal for him in his talking. But again, the 60 days was a real 60 days. And on the 61st day, Israel attacked. 2 weeks, you can see all the systems. It's all part of the diplomacy, is to show readiness and willingness to help achieve the goals. And so I think the 2-week mark is a real mark, but with the National Security Council meeting daily, Israel's doing a really good job of reducing Iran's capabilities. And you would think at this point they would show rationale, just like Pakistan did after 4 days, saying, look, we don't want any more of this. But the Islamic regime is trying to battle and save face, because if it truly gives up its complete nuclear program, it won't exist as it does today. It's part of its center philosophy for existing is the building of a nuclear bomb to be able to do what it wants to do in the Middle East.
But John, has the Biden administration's calibrated silence on Israel's offensive in fact emboldened Netanyahu or limited his room for escalation? How do you look at it?
Well, I mean, the Trump administration has, of course, been involved in the planning and acknowledgement, because this was a global threat. There was real U.S. bases in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and others that would be under, and we saw them being evacuated before this. So clearly, the United States administration has been working hand in hand as Israel took this act by themselves out of survival. I think they're in close coordination daily, probably, to ensure that there isn't that broader spillover that you were talking about, such as the Straits of Hormuz and basically the global oil economy, things like that nobody wants to see. And whether the United States, and I think this is why President Trump does have room to wait right now. The United States doesn't have to, although it could speed with like hitting the Fordo site with the U.S. bomb that only the United States has, that would end the goal of rolling back the nuclear program quicker. But nobody wants to see that broader spillover and escalation. So the United States, of course, is monitoring, communicating with Israel, what they're striking and things like that on a day-to-day basis.
But then, is there a clear U.S.-Israel operational understanding on Iran? Or, John, are we witnessing a case of strategic divergence?
No, absolutely not. I think you actually see for once, as the United States' foreign policy has failed in Iran to curtail its nuclear program, you actually see alignment with the United States and Israel in achieving the goal of removing this threat. I mean, Iran was also developing an intercontinental ballistic missile to be able to hit other countries, to include the shores of the United States. This is a real threat to the world. And I think you see an alignment here. Even in the past, when you saw Israel striking the Iraq nuclear site and the Syrian nuclear site, there was not alignment, although eventually there was basically agreement that it was necessary. But at the time, there was stiff even sanctions and political statements against Israel for taking it into their own hands. But this time, I think there's strong alignment in the goal.
Okay, then what about Hezbollah and Iran's proxy networks? And what role do you think they will play if this becomes a wider war? And then can the US afford another regional engagement?
Yeah, so to be clear, the United States and the world can't afford Iran with a nuclear weapon. I know it's hard to put this war in context with previous regional wars like the invasion of Iraq that I took part of, but this intelligence, I mean, the IAEA saying that for the first time in 20 years, Iran was in violation of non-nuclear proliferation and was developing nuclear components for a bomb. Yes, the proxies that Iran has spent the billions of dollars that the United States gave, or sanctions relief that the United States gave in a hope that Iran would just magically give up its program, is how it built these ring of fire around Israel, and Hezbollah being the crown jewel, which still is believed to have 40%, 50% of its medium range missiles that could do a lot of harm in Israel. But right now, it seems that Hezbollah has been deterred by Iran in its overwhelming military operation that Israel has done against Iran, has deterred Hezbollah, but it's an absolute real threat, as well as the Shia-backed militias in Iraq. The Houthis still have some capability, and then you have a concern about like sleeper cells in everybody's countries. As of right now, it seems that either Iran's holding that capability till it views itself in dire constraint or dire need, but also that these elements have been weakened and that they're deterred. So there might be a divergence between the Ayatollahs and these even terror proxies that they have built.
And how do you look at these, nuclear sites in Iran, which are being floated as legitimate military targets by Israel, and how dangerous is that rhetoric in terms of global fallout?
So this is, my personal opinion is that they weren't perceived legitimate targets. They're absolutely legitimate targets under any doctrine, from the Caroline Doctrine to Article 51 of self-defense. This was a real, clear, present danger to Israel, since the Ayatollah said it was death to Israel and then death to America. I think all of those nuclear sites are the strongest legitimate targets, especially for the goal that Israel has set. Israel doesn't have the goal at this moment of regime change. If it's a byproduct, that's great for the people of Iran. But the targeting of this real threat to Israel and to other countries in the Middle East, as well as the United States, the Natanz nuclear site, Isfahan, the Fordow, the plutonium enrichment site, all very legitimate targets in this act of self-defense that Israel has done. And I think I'm pretty sure that's an international norm, that this would be clear, legitimate targets. And the ripple effect across the kind of global perspective is, this is why you can't have terror regimes achieving nuclear weapons. It would lead to proliferation, because if Iran had a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia would want one, other countries would want one from self-defense, from what this terror proxy, this terror regime says it wants its nuclear program. It doesn't want clean energy. It wants the ability to cause mass destruction against other countries so it can continue its global export of terrorism, much like Pakistan does.
We know the role of certain countries in the Middle East, and also about the European countries. But what about China and Russia? Where do you see these two countries in this entire conflict?
Yeah, surprisingly, everybody was looking to Russia to see what Russia would do. And although Iran and Russia signed a security agreement in 2024, Iran has been helping Russia in its campaign in Ukraine. It wasn't a mutual defense agreement. So when Iran called Russia, Russia said, "You're on your own." Vladimir Putin even talked to President Trump about helping to mediate a end of basically the operation, and President Trump told him, "How about you worry about mediating and ending the war in Ukraine?" Now, China is also a different car without as strong relationship. There was some reporting that China was sending military supplies. I'm not sure if that was true or not. Hopefully that's not true, and there should be kind of a global conversation about this is about a very limited objective, and nobody should be helping Iran continue a nuclear program at this moment, and that there should be this. I agree that there's many European countries in Geneva right now, and they talked about Oman getting back to the table. This is Iran's chance to actually negotiate in good faith, which it wasn't doing before.
Couple of questions, and I want to understand, President Donald Trump saw himself as a peacemaker, and he was hoping that he would have stopped the Russia-Ukraine war. That was not to be. And if now he has set that 14-day deadline, 2 weeks to be specific, according to the White House, how, does it really weaken the role of United States? It's appearing to be almost a country which is going to be triggering it, making it worse, perhaps escalating it rather than de-escalation?
No, I think the opposite is actually actualizing the peace through strength motto that President Trump came into, was elected for. While America first doesn't mean isolationism or disengaging from the global economy, it's actually the opposite. You saw President Trump in the Middle East recently with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Emirates signing $600 billion trade deals with the Sunni kind of the people who aren't trying to destroy their neighbors. And that's a positive. And I think this, although the Russia-Ukraine war is an illegal throwing out the international norms, actually keeps peace, like sovereign borders that we kind of should all agree on is a thing that should be upheld. And the operations that Russia is doing in Ukraine, it's awful. But in this case, no, I think this is showing actually what peace through strength looks like, and it isn't starting a forever war, it's ending a forever war in Islamic regimes, global terror proxies. I had soldiers die in Iraq from the Quds Force, IRGC in Iraq, attacking American forces. No, I think this is showing, and even without being involved at this point, political leadership, much like Prime Minister Modi did with Pakistan, saying, look, we're not going to do the nuclear blackmail thing, the two-sided face of terrorism, say you're helping against it and then deploying terrorists into everybody's countries, in this case, especially India's. No, I think this is like Prime Minister Modi's strategic leadership during Sindhu. This is showing President Trump's leadership in a conflict that other people were kicking down the road in a specific area. This isn't about a quagmire of trying to build another nation or what comes after the regime. This is about removing an imminent threat to Israel and to the United States and other countries.
John, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Shifting focus now, ladies and gentlemen, and for that, I'll try and get more details on this conflict, which is only intensifying. Remember, the tremors are being felt far beyond the Middle East, including right here in our country, India. For a country that imports nearly 85% of its crude oil, any escalation threatens to disrupt supply lines and spike global prices, directly hitting our economy and inflation. But it's not just about oil. India has deep strategic ties with both Israel and Iran, and one a key defense partner, the other a vital route to Central Asia through the Chabar port. With West Asia on the edge, New Delhi finds itself in a very, very delicate diplomatic dance, balancing energy security, regional stability, and long-term strategic interests. So how prepared is India for the fallout of a possible regional war, and what are the big takeaways for our foreign and economic policy? Let me give you some more statistics here. Over 8 million Indians live and work across the Gulf, in UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Iran. Any regional flare-up could risk their safety, affect employment, and delay remittances as well. And if there is going to be a prolonged conflict, it doesn't help anyone. Joining me now to break this down further and get more details on and get perspective, I would say, on what now in this entire conflict is Adam Scott. He's joining me from Tel Aviv. He's the CEO of Israel Innovation Fund. We have Mohammad Khatibi. He's an Iran analyst and a broadcast journalist joining me from Tehran. Ashok Sajanhar is a former diplomat. Adam, I'm going to begin with you. Is Israel's current military posture aimed at deterrence, or does it signal an intent to dismantle Iran's regional influence entirely?
So I think it's first of all, thank you for having me. I think it's very clear that not only are we trying to dismantle the regional influence, but we're trying to dismantle the regime itself. And I think that's extremely important to understand. There is no war between Israel and the Iranian people. This is strictly between the Islamic Republic, their regime, and their threats against not only the Western world, but also Israel. So I think it should be very clear that the Israeli goal is one thing: regime change and the freedom for the Iranian people and the restabilization of the Middle East.
From Tehran's side, is this about retaliation or about shaping a long-term resistance narrative here? Would you take that question, Khatibi?
Yeah, I mean, was that to me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's for the other panelist. Yes.
The other guest from Israel is saying that Israel is the most moral army in the world and is trying to give freedom to Iranians.
Well, we're certainly not the world's largest sponsor of terror. I can say that right now.
What you have done in occupied Palestine, we have done.
Right, occupied Palestine, except for the fact that it's our land and that we've been an indigenous people for 3,500
and you
years.
are continuing to bomb Syria. You are continuing to bomb Lebanon.
I'm gonna leave the program if I have to listen to this. I'm not gonna lie.
One moment.
I'm sorry.
Moment.
I'm not gonna listen to this type of propaganda, and I'm not gonna listen to this type of.
Why?
I'm not
It's
gonna
not
listen.
propaganda.
I am not going to listen to a representative of the Islamic Republic call my land occupied or a colonizer, especially when this is a regime that is the world's largest sponsor of terror. You want entertainment? That's fine, but I will not dignify any person like this speaking this way about my case. Sir, listen, your country is burning. I'm sorry that your country is burning. I'm sorry that you're losing a war. I'm sorry that every single proxy has been destroyed. I'm sorry that Hezbollah is gone. I'm sorry that Hamas is gone. I'm sorry that the Houthis are losing. And I'm sorry that only 10% of your rockets are getting through. And if you look at the population or the strategic placement of our bombs versus yours, okay, listen, I understand that you have to be an apologist for an Islamic regime.
And you are trying
listen, you're not going to be able to talk over me, just like you weren't able to win a war.
Doesn't help.
So I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not
Mr.
going to listen to
Khatibi
this.
and Adam, you will have to be patient with each other. You may not agree, but on NDTV,
May not agree.
we get all the voices, and it's an Israel versus Iran conflict, and hence Iranian representative will be on the channel as part of this discussion, Adam, so you will have to be patient while he makes his point, just as he was when you were speaking. So, okay, Mr. Khatibi, 30 seconds, then we move on.
Yes, he is trying to say that Iran is being attacked because it has nuclear weapons. Netanyahu has been saying this for almost 20 years, and he is saying that now, and now he is talking about Iran wanting to assassinate Trump, and these are things that Israel is doing.
I said nothing about Iran assassinating Donald Trump.
US feet in the region.
I didn't say that at all.
Kill more people, as it killed many Palestinians, and it killed many Lebanese people on false charges, and it is the expansionist idea of Israel.
Okay, so we'll have to move on. We'll have to move on and try.
I'm gonna say this right now.
Adam,
I'm sorry.
Adam,
if you want to put me on with a panelist that is a legitimate panelist who wants to articulate the Islamic Republic's, point of view, that's fine. But this is not a legitimate panelist. And the things that he's saying are absolutely ridiculous and are a waste of my time to even acknowledge.
No, but why do you say that he is not legitimate? He is.
You know why?
He's joining us from Tehran, and he's also an analyst. I mean, on what basis are you saying that he's not legitimate?
I'm going to tell you why he's not a legitimate panelist, because I did not say anything about Donald Trump, and he just said that I said something about Donald Trump. And you know what? We have been saying that we would attack you for 20 years if you came close to a nuclear bomb. You financed proxies that have attacked us. You financed Hamas that attacked us. Okay, this isn't coming from nowhere. The Islamic Republic is the world's largest sponsor of terrorism. You've killed Jews and Israelis all over the world. That's fine. You can shake your head. There are videos of your people,
who is now killing
Iranian
Gazans?
people,
Just tell me, who has killed 50,000 people, innocent women and children? Who has killed?
Listen, I'm not going to deal with this.
Tell me this.
Now,
who has killed 50,000 people?
You'll have to listen to him.
Speaking.
You'll have to listen to him. Yes.
I am speaking right now. and I will not be interrupted by a representative of the Islamic
Go ahead.
Republic. I'm sorry. There are videos of your people dancing and celebrating in the streets because we are taking down your regime. You want
These
to
are
be
not
a
our
defender?
people. Our people
Okay,
want
those are not your
retaliation.
people.
We are a nation
no,
that
no,
defends
no,
itself, and we will continue to do so.
Your people,
And you
your
are
country
attacking
is
our sovereign
crippled.
territory,
Your
and we are
economy
defending
is
it.
crippled.
And you will
Excuse
know.
me, are you telling me, are you telling me that you haven't attacked our sovereignty? You've done nothing wrong. You never fired rockets in
We didn't
Myanmar?
start
No,
this.
I know.
You were.
You've never
Who
done
attacked our
anything.
nuclear
The
facilities?
Islamic
Who attacked
Republic
our
of
military
Iran
sites?
has
Who
never done
targeted
anything.
residential
That's
areas and civilian
absolutely,
areas?
you want to know something? That's absolutely
Who did it?
fascinating that you would say that. Yeah, that's absolutely that you would say something. It's the Jews. It's the Jews that are disrupting the world. It's the Jews that are taking
don't
over.
have any problem
It's
with
the
the
Jews that are
Jews.
disrupting
We
the
don't
world.
have any
Oh, no,
problem
it's
with
all
the
bad.
Jews.
Where does Saudi Arabia stand?
we don't
I
have
want
any
to understand.
problem.
Both of you,
Many
please be
Jews live in
silent now.
Iran, and they are
Adam and
peaceful,
Khatibi, you'll have to be
and they
silent.
have
Ashok Sajanar.
representation
No,
in our
he
parliament.
has to be brought in now because I don't think so we are going anywhere if both of you are out shouting each other. The role of Russia and China in this conflict is particularly important here, Ambassador Sajanhar. Are they passive observers or are there covert efforts to tilt the balance through arms, information or diplomacy?
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria, for having me on the show. You're very right. I think much was expected of Russia as well as of China in terms of helping Iran. After all, Russia and Iran, they signed an agreement last year, a defense agreement, but then it is mentioned that mutual defense is not a part of that agreement. So Russia has not come into that. Russia has told Iran that it's on its own. And in any case, I think even if it had wanted to help, there is, it is so engrossed, it is so involved in its own conflict with Ukraine, and it doesn't seem to be getting nowhere at all. 3.5 years on, it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere at all. So I think the capacity and capability of Russia to support, to help Iran in any way is very, very limited, if at all. And what Mr. Putin, the best that he has been able to do is to say that I can mediate, but I don't think there are any takers for his mediation, definitely not Israel. As far as China is concerned, it had signed $40 billion deal with Iran some time ago for all sorts of, whether it is in terms of the Belt and Road Initiative or in terms of import of energy and oil and gas and et cetera, et cetera. But there is that distance between the two of them, between China and Iran. I think there's very little that China can really do. Of course, there have been some reports that some huge airliners and aircrafts have flown in from China to Turkmenistan, the southern part of Turkmenistan, which is just close to its, the borders are very close with Iran. But it is not really known very much as to what has been shipped, what has been sent, and whether that is any arms equipment for Iran. So I think at the moment one can say it's already 8 days, much damage has been suffered by Iran. What one can say is that there is nothing much that China or Iran have been able to do.
Okay, there has to be, Khatibi, don't you think the red line has been crossed, particularly with that attack on the hospital?
We didn't cross the red lines. We were on the negotiating table with the US and Israel below the table. We haven't attacked anywhere near the hospital, and we all know that Israel is a great liar, and it's trying to depict as a self-defense. But it is not a self-defense, it's an aggression. It's an act of aggression, and Israel is trying to legitimize it by saying that we are the ones who are targeted. No, this is not the case.
Let him finish. Adam, let him finish. Yes.
I'll wait.
We didn't attack any hospital. We are targeting legitimate targets inside occupied Palestine, military sites and intelligence sites. But you what you do? You target banks, you destroy Iranian people's lives, you attack and destroy residential areas, civilian buildings, and many people have been killed, including women and children. And you are trying to sell the world that we are the moral army of the world. This is not true. And we have seen that in Gaza Strip. We have seen that in Syria, Lebanon, wherever you are, wherever your boss, US, is, you are saying that we are trying to give freedom to that country. You didn't bring freedom to Iraq. Your boss didn't bring freedom to Iraq. It's just misery. We don't let you to do that.
Am I going to be allowed to say anything?
Yeah.
Let him finish. Yeah. So you've made your point, Pradeep. Come in. Adam.
You're finished. Okay. First of all, I don't know what we have to do with Iraq. We had nothing to do with that. That was the Americans too. Could you just do me a favor and define occupied Palestine for me? What areas that are? Because you said you're firing rockets at occupied Palestine. Now, from the most left wing of terminology, that would be the West Bank and Gaza, except you've hit Arab homes in the West Bank. So I'm just wondering, when you say occupied Palestine and you're shooting in Tel Aviv and Beersheba, are you referring to Tel Aviv and Beersheba as occupied Palestine?
Yeah. The whole occupied Palestine.
Okay.
There is nothing called Israel.
Okay, excuse me. I asked one question.
There is nothing called Israel.
Time to talk. Right. Okay. So there's nothing called Israel. Okay. So now I know that we're dealing with a guest not living in reality.
You try to annex now.
Sir, shut up.
You have control over whatever you have.
Myself. Do you understand? I'm going to bend you over and smack you the way that our army is already destroying your country. So either you be quiet.
Adam, we have to be careful with the language. We have to be very, very careful with the language. This is a discussion on a television channel. You are really going overboard. You're going very, very overboard.
My country doesn't exist. Okay. Well, my country doesn't exist, apparently. And it's okay to attack our civilian infrastructure, and it's okay to attack. It's okay.
No one is attacking your civilian infrastructure. You better know that you are trying to occupy the whole West Bank, and you are growing settlements there.
Okay, right. Excuse me. No. In Tel Aviv, my friend's apartment has been destroyed. She is now homeless because you hit a rocket directly on her apartment building.
You destroyed 30 kilometers, 30.
No, we're not talking about that.
Excuse me. You have destroyed every building in Gaza.
Okay, Adam Scott, respond to my question now, and please, Mr. Khatibi, be silent.
I won't get that.
I'm sorry,
patient.
but I'm a serious journalist,
Scott, I want to,
and I'm a serious commentator, and I will not participate in these games just for your entertainment.
Adam, what is going to be the role of the United States?
The role of the United States will probably be whatever it has to be in order for there to be stability in the region, which is not something that will exist if the Islamic Republic continues to stand, as not only Syria feels, but Saudi Arabia feels, and also Lebanon feels, and so does Jordan. Because nobody likes playing with the Islamic Republic because they're the people that come into the sandbox and step on everybody's sandcastles. Now, if you want to have serious commentary and have a serious discussion, I'll be more than happy to do so. But it's extremely hard to do that with somebody that says they're not hitting civilian targets.
You can make your serious observation. You can make your
I can't make a serious observation
because I asked a question. You can respond to me. Forget about what's being said by Mr. Khatibi here. You respond to my question.
That's fine. I responded to you. I told you.
So U.S. President has given a 2-week deadline.
The Americans will probably do what is ever necessary in order to destabilize the Iranian regime and have them replaced. Mark my words, by the end of the month, the Islamic Republic will no longer be standing.
Mr. Khatibi, quickly.
So, without
the role of the
United
States,
you wouldn't have dared to.
Who do you think can play
without the US help, Israel wouldn't have dared to attack us. And it's the US, and Israel is the proxy of the US in the region.
Can make that effort to de-escalate this, given the nature of escalation that we are seeing? It's already 8 days.
We were